Hello and welcome to coverage of only the third edition of the classic Grand Besançon in the far east of France, pressed up against the border with Switzerland. My name is Jez Cox. I will be joined imminently by Adam Blythe, and we're going to be taking you all the way through what is effectively the final 100 kilometres of this, only the third edition of this UCI 1.1 race. Beautiful rolling terrain in the Doubs department, in the Franche-Comté region, as I say, right in the centre of the east of France and pressed right up against that border with Switzerland. You're looking at live pictures here of a six-man breakaway. There were 8 who went clear right from the gun when they left Besançon in order to take in a big 100-kilometre anti-clockwise loop, crossing over the Doubs River right in the middle, dipping onto the very edge of the Jura, where many of these riders will be tomorrow for the Tour du Jura, because this is part of a loosely collected 3 days of racing in this part of France, right on the northern edge of the French Alps. And as you can see, lovely racing conditions. They make their way back down into the valley. It gets much more lumpy from now on. This race and tomorrow's Tour du Jura, both of which Adam and I will be bringing you here at the home of cycling on Eurosport GCN, both finish with a cracking uphill finale. Today's is the Montfaucon, exactly the same finish that was used for last year's race. And it'll be much the same tomorrow as well. It's a slightly longer, harder climb. So please do join us for both of these. Let me talk you through what's been going on so far. Rory Townsend, the Irishman, is in here. There he is, the Irish champion, in the white top with that green stripe across the middle of it. There he is. So far, he has won every point we've gone through. He was the winner at the Col de Côte-Chazot in Marchaux, which was the traditional finish of this race in its first edition. Rory Townsend first through there. He was also first at the sprint in Emagny and Ussel, which they've just gone through. So you know that Rory Townsend is there, the Irishman. Also in there, the Brit from Oxford, the Englishman Charlie Quarterman, riding at the back here in the burgundy of Team Corotec, the Italian team. There he is. Just in front of him is the dark green colours of Bike Aid, the German team. And that's Wesley Mole, their Dutch rider, the 24-year-old in there in the middle, the big tall Dutchman. Also in there, in the sort of new colours, really, of Leopard TOGT Pro Cycling, which is now a Danish team. It has Luxembourg heritage. There he is, right at the back. This is Emil Vingibo, something of a journeyman, been through a number of different Danish teams. Very good rider as well, tagged onto the back of this one. This is a strong breakaway, it's worth saying, by the way. Morny van Niekerk is the ever-present, certainly in French races at this level, South African in these breakaways. He is in that new orangey-yellow colours of Saint-Michel Mavic Aubert 93. There he is right at the front, the South African. Let's say, real regular breakaway man in these French 0.1 races, in particular Morny van Niekerk. Big, strong engine to have in there as well. There he is, the South African. Been with that team since 2019 as well, and a really important figure within the success of that team, particularly on the Coupe de France circuit. Finally in there, the youngster, 20-year-old, I should say, I nearly added a year to his age, Sean Christian of the USA, riding for the American national team. He's on the front right now in the blue colours, with the red and white stripe, of course, familiar colours of the USA national team. Still only 20 years of age and cutting his teeth racing on the European UCI circuit. In fact, this is only his third UCI race in Europe. Started the season in Greece with the national team, and in the breakaway today. Adam, it's glorious conditions in this part of France as well, isn't it? We should be set for 2 really nice days of racing here with tough finishes.
It is indeed. Yeah, it's going to be a nice one for these riders today. I'm sure they're going to enjoy the nice weather rather than a lot of rain, but try and listen to this chat that's going on.
That's interesting. So I wonder where they're talking about to the bottom of, because he was saying there, now we're listening to Emil Vingibo, I think we need at least 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes to the bottom. He can't be talking about the final climb, can he? Because the final climb is only 4k long. What do you reckon? Yeah,
they can bring that back easily on that final climb. It's 9.4%, so that breakaway, they'll have spent a lot of time out there, so I can imagine that they will probably need 2.5 minutes by the time that they get there, with the riders that are here as well today. But that's a long way off from now.
Yeah.
So I probably can imagine they're talking about the final climb, which they go through once already before. The Col de la Malette, which is pretty much the same climb, I think.
Yeah, they turn off, they sort of start going up the final climb and then turn off it, leaving that last bit up to the top of Montfaucon. I think the reason is it's actually a dead end that they run into eventually anyway. So, yeah, we're going to get a little look at it this time through. This is such a new race, of course, only the third edition of this race. As Adam just pointed out, we are getting closer to entering what I guess we can call our finishing circuit, but they only go round it once. It's the final 64 kilometres once we get there, and they're already now riding their way northward, back up from the low point, which is Quigny, and they ride up through the Département of Doubs, up towards, or back towards Besançon, and they actually ride through the edge of Besançon before taking in the full loop of the finishing circuit, which is 46k in total, and then they turn off, as Adam was mentioning, the Côte de la Malette to take in the final climb of Montfaucon. It's a pretty hard finale. Those of you who saw it last year remember seeing eventually Jesus Herrada of Cofidis just punching clear, literally just before the top. Those of you who saw it last year will remember we had a few, our local broadcasters in this part of France had a few issues bringing the second edition of this race to us, and unfortunately they turned the lead camera motorbike off into the deviation, so it went off with the team cars and all we saw was the back end of a car in a car park until eventually we got that last shot of Jesus Herrada raising his arms. Of course, his team Cofidis are heavily involved in pegging that gap at the front. At the front here we can see the tall figure of Thomas Champion, the tall Frenchman for Cofidis, sitting third wheel there, and his other teammates have been contributing as well. Just as a reminder, Cofidis got the 1-2 last year as well, with Herrada winning, because Victor Lafay was also right up there, and he was second. Herrada and Lafay are back. Alexis Villemot, who was third last year, and Steph Crass, who was fourth, are not here, but Elie Gesbert is here as well, riding for Arkea Samsic, and a really good pick for them on a finish like this. I guess it must be a tricky thing, Adam, to a certain extent, in that not all the riders will know this finish. There's only about half this field rode in last year's race. There's a few who've done both, but not a great number. So it's still a course, and I guess a finishing hill at Montfaucon that they're still getting to know.
Yeah, the good news for them is that I've just checked, they do go up that finish climb twice. The only difference is the last time is they do an extra 300 metres. So even though they don't know it, they will do it once already. So they'll get a pretty good idea with just over 60 k's to go of what that finish is like, and they'll be able to judge their efforts. I think that last 100 metres is relatively flat as well, so probably only about 200 metres of extra climbing. They'll be grand.
It will be grand. It's going to be. It was a cracking finale last year. As they went, well, as soon as they got into the steepest part, it kind of steepens in. There's a switchback that I'm guessing. Yeah, we will see the first time through as well. Goes up to about 17% as well. So it'd be interesting to see what we come to that with the first time through before we take in that complete loop. I wonder if, yeah, maybe that's what. Who was it? Emil Vingegaard was talking about the first time they hit that hill with the one complete lap to go, so about 60k to go. Something like, he reckoned about 2.5 minutes. That's interesting. I must admit, Adam, I can never get my head around the working out of these things. You know I'm not great with numbers anyway. As we see the break confirmed for you there as I'd rattle through it. But the working out of what kind of time gap you'll need from different positions on the course, particularly on lumpy terrain like this, is well beyond the bounds of my mathematical ability. What were you like at working out on the bike as you go when you were racing, Adam?
It wasn't really up to me, to be honest. It was up to the guy that was riding on the front. But yeah, you get a good gauge of what you need. I mean, these guys they'll ride, I'm going to say, as steady as possible for as long as they can whilst trying to hold the gap. And then I'm pretty sure once they get to that final second to last climb, which is the final climb, they'll ride up there. I would suggest that they ride up there all together and try and keep them all together, because they've got a long way after that. So try and keep everyone together. As soon as you get over the top, full gas all the way to the finish again, and then you can start to decide. But yeah, they just need to stay together, work as well as they possibly can together to try and keep that gap as large as they can with minimal effort, which is not easy when you've got three of the biggest teams in France chasing you.
Absolutely. We're just looking there at the back wheels of Rory Townsend, who is on quite a remarkable start to the season. He's been a little bit lucky as well, of course. I've been bigging him up for years, ever since I had the great pleasure of commentating on him in the Tour Series in the United Kingdom, racing so well. I've always felt, as have a lot of fans of British cycle sport, watching the Irishman, that he's destined for even bigger things and maybe even bigger things than this as well. He's got a wonderful sprint finish on him, great tactician, very aggressive racer. Had a fantastic result at the Rue Tourangelle in the Coupe de France earlier this year. What was that, round 5 of that 17-round series, getting a big win, and a big win as well in a big sprint finish over Gerben Thiessen as well. So wonderful by the looks of it.
He stayed away there. He was in the early break and he stayed away. The sprint was bearing down and he managed to hold on. But yeah, brilliant win by him. He's, as you said, Jez, he has started very well to the season. He's got off to a good start, new team for him as well. And he's in the break again. So yeah, he is, as you said, marking his card at the minute.
He was in the break at Brabant-Sapel midweek as well, and in the break again here. So he's obviously got good form, but I'd have thought that must be just also a bit of confidence, just like knowing he can do it at this level.
Yeah, I think so. And I think once he's had that success of being successful out of a breakaway, he's probably got that in his head that that's the way to do it. But I think the form that Rory's in, you know, he can afford to be a little bit more confident maybe with him within that team and just say, look, I can probably do more than going in the breakaway and maybe hanging on again. I would like the support of the team, and I'm sure that they'd give it him and give him his chance to be a leader on that day, to be able to show what he can do from within the peloton, not just from going in breakaways. But it's working for him at the minute. He's got a win so far. So yeah, it's good to see him, the Brit.
Yeah, he's very much a Brit as well. Though he races for Ireland, he's the Irish national champion. Grew up in sort of southwest London and Surrey, I think. And you mentioned, Adam, him being lucky, and in a way, yes, he's lucky, but he's come from a kind of a sad state of affairs. He spent many, many years with Tim Elverson's various different teams. Lots of viewers will know them as with Sun God, racing on the UCI continental scene. And the British pro continental stroke elite scene is in a bad place this year, Adam. I don't know what you think about that, but it seems to be. And of course, that team that he was in up until the winter unfortunately disbanded at the beginning of this year, you know, in just a few races into the season, and the riders are left looking for places. And it was not anything to do with the incredibly hard work of Tim Elverson trying to keep the team going, of course, but this is the state of where things are, I think, at the moment with the British teams. It was a swift move, not a lucky move, but in a way, looking back on it, a good move by him, Matt Bostock, Ryan Christensen, moving across to the Kiwi team, Bolton Equities Black Spoke, to give them their full name. And they'll be mates with lots of the riders that are left high and dry after that team disbanding this year, but they might just be looking back thinking, phew, that was a good move.
Yes, I'm sure it can't have been nice for anyone that's, you know, in a team that's suddenly folded. So I think there's a silver lining to it, isn't it? And it's worked out for Rory, definitely it's worked out better than it would have been staying in England. But for a lot of other riders as well, they'll be without a contract and trying to find something or do some races in England, which there isn't many of, sadly. So I'm sure for a lot of them it might be, I'm not going to say game over, but, you know, they've got to earn the money from somewhere.
Right, just watching what's going on here, I think Vingegaard may have just gone on maybe to pick up a feed by the looks of it, or he's certainly gone on a little bit ahead, but appears to be waving back to his compatriots. In amongst our chat, I missed him pressing on. He's an interesting rider. We might see what happened, actually. They're being waved to slow down. I think Vingegaard just getting a little bit of a gap through that chicane by the looks of it.
Yeah, I think he pressed on there. Maybe a little motorbike in front of him as well, maybe. He was able to carry that speed, get a little bit of draft, and the rider in second wheel there, Charlie Courtney, not really quite that effort to follow you just yet.
Well, Adam, there's us talking about teams disbanding and riders then going through dips and rises in their career. I guess it happens to a lot of riders. Some riders will stay with the same team, of course, all the way through their career, and if they're good enough, will kind of sail the whole thing out. But you'll know what it's like, going through dips of moving up through the team rankings and then dropping down a bit and then moving up again. We're watching Vingegaard there. He's a classic example of it, the 29-year-old, now riding for the Leopard Pro Cycling Team, Leopard TGOTT, I should give them their full name. They were a Luxembourgish team, weren't they? And now they're a Danish team that have got dual ownership. They still have plenty of Luxembourg riders in there and Danish riders, and Vingegaard is one of them who's been just watching. We're just watching Thibaut Pinot moving up, touching hips with one or two riders. But yeah, Vingegaard is a classic example of one of those journeymen who's been on that, riding that kind of pogo stick of teams, and now finds himself racing at UCI Continental level, having been with some big teams over the years as well.
He has done indeed. I mean, it's staying in the big teams, which is hard if you're not doing all the big races. But for these races, for those riders that are in I'm going to say a smaller ranked team, hugely important for them to get a result. If you see Ben O'Connor, he looks quite comfortable, doesn't he? Give us a little wave. All right, Mike. There we go.
Yeah, he's got to be one of the big favourites. Let's talk about favourites then, because 1 year ago, Ben O'Connor was the winner. A year and a day ago, he was the winner of the Tour de Jura, which we bring viewers tomorrow. He'd started last year's season in it was the year following the year, stay with me on this one, where he was fourth at the Tour de France. I think at the beginning of last year, he came out all guns blazing in pretty much everything he did. I remember him at the Saudi Tour on the attack on the flat stages and just at it the whole time. He's had a much quieter start to this year, after a strong Vuelta last year as well. He's got to be one of the big favourites today. But who else should we be looking for if it should all come back together before that final ascent of Montfaucon, Adam?
We've got Thibaut Pinot, obviously. Then we have Guillaume Martin. It's going to be an interesting one to see how he goes. Victor Lafay. They're the really big ones. Victor Delapart from Total Direct Energies as well. Pierre Latour is another from that team as well. Then you've got the Lotto Destiny riders, Sylvain Moniquet, but might be a little bit too hard for him this climb. Nance Peters as well, maybe. Maxime Bouet, Team Arkea Samsic, Elie Gisbert, who you've already mentioned as well. And then you've got the Bolton Equities Black Spoke, which I'm just going to call them Black Spokes. That is a heck of a mouthful to pronounce. But yeah, 4 Kiwis on that team and 2 Brits, Mark Stewart and Rory Townsend. Rory being in the breakaway as well. But it'd just be interesting to see what they can do. Aaron Gates in there, who won the Commonwealth Games as well. Very strong rider, but I feel like this finish might be a little bit hard for him today. But we shall see.
Absolutely. There are, just to top it all out, 20 teams in the race. Those 4 world teams are all French teams, as you might expect. Arkea Samsic, Agi Desert Citroën team, Cofidis and Groupama FDJ. Those 4 teams. Then we have 9 pro teams. Good mix as well of Belgian, French, Spanish, and of course the Kiwi team, Bolton Equities Black Spoke. BEB. Their UCI, an acronym, Adam, is BEB, so maybe we should just call them BEB. B-E-B. It's a bit easier, isn't it? I'm not sure the sponsors will be too happy with that. Kern Farmer are here too. No one in the break, which was a little bit of a surprise to me, because they're always so good at sneaking riders into breakaways in races like this, but they didn't get anyone in there. They do have Roger Adria, though, who is in great form. He was 5th at a race which, in a way, is quite a nice indicator towards this race, the GP Miguel Indurain, just a couple of weeks ago. Similar kind of lumpy terrain as well, and he was 5th there. He was 5th there, Adria. So a man in good form. Might keep an eye out for the light greeny, kind of minty green of Kern Farmer. Meanwhile, just under 4 minutes. The biggest gap they had was just over 5, these riders. As I say, there were originally 8 of them. Maxime Uriti, a very strong rider on the French scene, was in there for Nice Metropole. He was then dropped, as was Jan Stockley of Team Corotec. Those two were dropped as they went over the Col de la Côte Chazou, which was the first categorised climb of the day. Rory Townsend leads in the mountains classification and the sprints classification right now, the Irish champion, and he's back on the front again. Yeah,
this is the next climb. They're just at the bottom of it now, and it is 4.6 k's long at an average of 3.4%, so not too steep really for them. It's a nice big ring climb, I think, especially for this peloton. And the way that they're riding, I'm sure we'll see this probably drop down another minute by the time we get to the top. As I said, that breakaway will just ride a little bit easier on the climb, try and all stay together, and then little speed bump there, and then as they get over the top, try to step on the gas a little bit to try and hold that breakaway, if not extend it, get to the climb again, ride all together up it, and then use the strength in numbers on the flatter and easier parts to get back on the gas. But this peloton is, they want them to come back, I think. Always brought back a minute in, what, 12, 15k?
They've got a very young team, Groupama FDJ, today and tomorrow as well. This is Eddie Le Huituz. I've never mentioned his name before. The youngster, the 20-year-old. He is on the front right now. They have a fascinating rider in that I'm looking forward to seeing at the finish today, Adam. I know he was being interviewed at the start, and that is Lenny Martinez. Lots said about the 19-year-old. He's not quite the youngest in the race because we have an 18-year-old as well, who's the youngest in the race. There you go. I'm looking down my start list to try and remember. Now, there is an 18-year-old in here who's younger than him. One of the Americans, I think it was, in fact. I'll come back to that. Yeah, Lenny Martinez. Thank you.
He's the youngest, number 195.
There we go. Martinez is much older, of course, at the age of 19, the young Frenchman. And, of course, he's the son of Miguel Martinez, the first ever Olympic mountain bike champion from Sydney in the year 2000. And I keep picking up on lots of... He's had a smashing career already as an under-23 rider and now finding himself up in the big boys team in amongst the senior team of Groupama FDJ, rather than... I think he's still dipping in and out of their under-23 team this year, but racing on the World Tour. And he could be, I think, very exciting to watch, particularly on the climbs in the coming, few years. Not wishing to put too much pressure on the age of 19, but he rode very well at the Vuelta Catalunya already this year, so already showing he's got some real potential. His father, those of you who know your 90s mountain biking, he was actually, I'd forgotten this, but at the time he was known as Little Miguel Martinez, because of course he was racing and achieving on the mountain bike initially an extremely high level in amongst the tail end of Miguel Indurain's career. The two of them aren't related in any way whatsoever, of course, not least because Miguel Indurain's Spanish and Lenny Martinez is, as is his father Miguel, French. But yeah, very exciting young rider by all sounds. We'll look out for him. He's built, and in fact he's obviously, maybe as you'd expect, this is a spitting image of his dad. Compact, lightweight, and a very aggressive rider too. So we'll watch out for him. He rides with a number 3 on his back today in those colours of Groupama FDJ, which have changed again this year, Adam. I don't think we commentated too much on them together this year, despite the fact we've been on the mic a fair bit. What do you rate of their new kit? There is an awful lot of blue around, I know, this year, but it's changed again, isn't it?
Yeah, nice, simple, classy. FDJ always do a good job of the kits, especially the national champs kits. They're probably the best in the peloton. They go all in on it. But yeah, it's nice, simple, classy, just nice.
Yes, I'd agree with that. It's got a shade of lots of different types of blue in there as well. We are rolling through some
shades of blue.
Yeah, all sorts. It looks to me like Agida's Citroën team are well up for this. I think the whole team, all 7 of them, are up at the front as well, and it's with good reason. You mentioned non-spetters, but they've got quite a few options in there today. Clément Venturini is another fast finisher, particularly uphill as well. Cyclocross rider. Came good right at the end of the cyclocross season, Venturini, this year, and I'd kind of not seen it. I commentated on quite a bit cross this winter, and he was always there or thereabouts. It's always fascinating having this Agida's Citroën team rider who would rock up every now and again and finish somewhere around the top 20, but you don't see too much of him, yet you know that he's a good rider on the road. Right at the end of the season, 4th at Besançon, the World Cup race there, and then took 10th place at those Worlds behind Mathieu van der Poel, so he had a great finish to the cross season. And, yeah, we're looking to see how he goes here today, Venturini. But he's a good bet, someone you don't often hear mentioned too often at races like this, and usually playing his part for the team. But Ben O'Connor, I suspect, Adam, I'd have thought would be their big man. 1 year ago, he was 6th in this race anyway on Montfaucon, and then the following day, he got his tactics spot on by attacking quite a long way out and winning the Tour du Jura 1 day later. But, it's an interesting finale because it's not, as you said, I think earlier, it's not that long, this final climb. The main classified part is only 3k, but it is steep.
It is, yeah, 3.3k, 9.4% average gradient, so it is steep. And after 160k in the legs, it will start to bite a little bit, but they've got very fast downhill into it as well, which will give chance the riders to catch the breath going into it. But it is just going to be an all-out 10-minute, if that, effort for them. So for the likes of Ben O'Connor, this will be a great test to see where he's at in the season, what he can do, and a great opportunity for him
Right. Sorry, Adam. This is the top of the climb. Now, Rory Townsend has taken the first mountains point. It looks like this time Wesley Moll is going to try and take this. Townsend, by the looks of it, is just going with him. Townsend had led all the way up that climb. Might have been thinking maybe that he'd be allowed to roll across it uncontested, but no. Wesley Moll of the German team Bike Aid. No words exchanged between those two, but Townsend hanging on to. I think Rory Townsend is out to get anything he can out of this race today, sprints and mountains all combined, possibly thinking that they'll be reeled back in before the finish on top of Montfaucon. But Wesley Moll taking points on top of the Côte d'Epugny, and that is a climb we did take in last year's loop. It's a bit of a changed circuit, this. It's 10k shorter than last year's second edition, but they have decided to settle on the Montfaucon as being the focal point, the finale for this race at Grand Besançon, and that's not always the way. The Tour du Jura, as we'll see tomorrow, changes year on year, and tomorrow it's almost entirely different to what we had last year, starting in Poligny and finishing in Montpoupet. Because of where these races are, I can't help but think sometimes, Adam, and this race is a little bit like this, that you know how the French towns and cities are always, well, many of them have got an eye on trying to get the Tour de France to come there, so they want to show they can organise exciting racing, and this race and tomorrow's race are a good example of that, because Marchaux, where this race finished in its first year, has hosted, I think, starts and is vying to host a finish of a Tour de France stage, and then tomorrow's start, Poligny, is going to be the finish of stage 19 in this year's Tour de France, and it didn't even feature in last year's Tour du Jura. So we are looking always with these French races at a bit of a shop window for ASO to look at maybe, and think about whether they fancy bringing the great race here, because there's an awful lot of the Tour de France this year in this part of eastern and central eastern France as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Great Road to Ryder and Challenging Road as well, up, down, left, right, these little false flats in between that really hurt the riders. But it's, yeah, France is great for riding, as we know. That's why the Tour de France is there. But there's a lot of it that's still untouched still. But when you get roads like this, and you get the peloton in the best condition of their lives, every single rider in that peloton is absolutely flying at the Tour de France. It completely changes the way that we think a race will go, in terms of, we watch this race and there'll be a select group of maybe 15, 20 riders. Put this in the Tour de France, there'd be a select group of 80, 90 riders, and the other 100 of those riders will probably say, I need to save it for tomorrow. So roads like this, in a race like this, provide great viewing for us in terms of great racing and hard racing. It does in the Tour de France, but it's just the dynamic of the Tour changes the way that we see these roads ridden on in the Tour compared to what we see them here.
Absolutely. As we can see from the roadside, spring is still just blossoming in Europe right now. We've been through some pretty awful weather, not least through the cobbled classics as well, which are now done. It's remarkable saying that, and when you think that, what was it, back on about January the 5th or something, you and I got up in the middle of the night and started doing Tour Down Under, and here we are now, having rolled through the cobbled classics, already looking forward to the Ardennes classics, and then the Giro, of course, coming up with so much to do. You've got a busy week coming up as well, haven't you, with the Tour of the Alps as well. We're rolling through that, and of course already thinking, very much thinking about the build-up to the Giro d'Italia as well.
Yeah, main one is the Ardennes Classics, the Amstel Gold Race this weekend, then Liège as well. We've got a great couple of weeks, and then a couple of weeks later we do have the Giro d'Italia starting, so it is all coming thick and fast. Yeah,
just to remind viewers of what we have coming up, Adam and I bringing you the Tour du Jura tomorrow, as I said, and then of course that's tomorrow, Saturday. Sunday is of course the Amstel Gold Race, men's race, being brought to you by Carlton Kirby and Brian Smith, and Marty McDonald and Danny Christmas will be bringing you the women's race as well. Tom Pidcock and Tadej Pogacar, of course, two big favourites in that men's Amstel Gold on Sunday. Not a monument, but one of the biggest of the classics, of course, and always a great race to watch. Then kicking off on Monday, all the way through to Friday, Adam is going to be bringing you the Tour of the Alps with Rob Hatch as well. So just a little bit further south of here. What a lovely race. Some very envious of Rob doing that one with you, Adam. That'll be a lovely week watching this incredible countryside through the Alps, particularly in springtime, where you just kind of can see, like we can now, see through the trees a little bit more light on the road as well once we climb through the forested parts as well. Absolutely beautiful. That'll be fantastic. On Wednesday, it's Flèche Wallonne, of course, the next of our big classic one-day races. The women's race is going to be brought to you by Marty McDonald, Danny Christmas, and then Matt Stevens and I are going to bring viewers the men's Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday afternoon. Of course, classics-wise, we're then building towards Liège next weekend, the next of our monuments. And again, Marty McDonald, Danny Christmas bringing you the Liège-Bastogne-Liège Femme, and Adam and Rob back on the mic again together for the men's Liège next weekend. Quite some week, and a really varied week as well when you think about the difference between the Tour of the Alps, Flèche Wallonne, Liège, Amstel. Quite different races.
They're all uphill, Jed. They're all uphill.
yeah, good luck with the climbing. No, it's going to be great. What a week.
It is. This is one of the great weeks as well. After Roubaix, you almost have to take a big, and the other cobbled classics, a big deep breath in terms of, oh God, we're not going to get better racing than that for quite a while. But then all of a sudden, the Ardennes classics are on you. The races that we have in France here now, it's all little teasers, I think, especially Amstel being one of the best races of the season to watch just because of the route and the course and the riders that do it. And yeah, luckily for the viewers watching at home, you have Tadej Pogačar riding, along with a Tom Pidcock, who's been great in that race previously, and it's going to be good to see how he's getting on again. Tom is one of those great riders that we love watching, but we're never surprised if he wins or if he's just not quite on the mark. But let's hope he's on the mark this
Absolutely.
time.
Talking of British riders, and we're almost exceeding our talk about British riders anyway, although Rory Townsend doesn't count, so we bought ourselves some talking space there.
He does count. He does count.
No, not on paper. Yes, what I was going to say was, I'm just seeing in the news the last couple of days that Lizzie Deignan, talking about the women's races, might even be back in time for Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday, and then Liège that following weekend as well, that weekend. So it'd be great to see Lizzie Deignan back, of course, after the birth of her second child. Well, birth and upbringing and back racing again. It is, I suspect, going to be another chapter in her quite remarkable career as well. So it could be exciting. Watch this space. I don't think it's confirmed on start list yet, but certainly I've seen the news coming up that she might be back in time for Flèche Wallonne. And then Liège. That'll be an exciting one to watch, not just for British fans of British cyclists, but of all cyclists, knowing the pedigree that she's managed to come back at before, after the birth of her first child, of course, and that incredible win at the opening first ever women's Paris-Roubaix.
We have around 23k until the start of the next climb, and just to update everyone on the standings, as we saw Rory Townsend and Wesley Moll sprint over that last climb. They are now on equal virtual KOM points, so Wesley and Rory both on 8 points. So this next climb that they do, no doubt we're going to see a little bit more tactics playing out by those two, because the way that this peloton's riding, bringing it down quite quickly, certainly looks to be a hard tempo in the peloton. I can't imagine being there fighting it out for the win at the end of the day. So this next climb for them, they want to get that KOM, I'm going to say, win in this race, then it's going to be all out for the breakaway, especially those two riders, Wesley Moll and Rory Townsend, on the next climb. The Côte de la Mate. Malalate.
They're going northward, and they are nearly onto our finishing circuit, because they go into the bottom part of our finishing circuit. They enter the circuit in about about 8 kilometres time, something like that. Then they roll through quite a nasty little hill, actually. They go up. It is the Côte de la Malette, right on the edge of the Doubs River. They actually do a little. I remember this from last year. They do a kind of a long westerly sweep along the river, a dead turn which was really tight last year, back on themselves before they start the zigzags up to the lower slopes of the Montfaucon. Then they continue the loop completely. Yeah, I remember it now. Looking at the map, I remember it's very, very tight. Slightly downhill right turn, right on the edge of the River Doubs, which of course this département is named after. the Doubs River, which runs all the way through this part of France and right the way into Switzerland as well. And these are, as I said, and this shot is illustrative of that, the upper foothills of the northern French Alps as well. You can see that beautiful rolling countryside, the view from the top of the Citadel. Besançon, of course, the reason it became such an important city in the east of France was because it was up on a hill and built right in that sort of edge of it. There's the road down beneath that they'll turn along as well, that road that runs along the edge of the Citadel and the River Doubs itself. I covered this race last year with Danny Christmas, Adam, and she actually messaged me in the week to remind me that she had remembered about zebra trout. And I was amazed that anyone ever listens to my waffles about animals and things. But she said, no, I remember specifically you talking about there being zebra trout in the River Doubs. And I'll fill you in on this now, because I can see that you're very intrigued. It's a fish which is unique, apparently, to this edge of France and Switzerland as well. It's kind of a range between a rainbow trout and a brown trout. And looking down on the River Doubs down there, it seems appropriate. But it's kind of stripy, and it's got sort of zebra patterns to it. And apparently they abound in this beautiful French river.
Earn a living to be able to get by in life.
Absolutely. Well, look, if you are recently joining us and wondering what this fascinating chat is while we look across this beautiful River Doubs Valley, I can only apologise. My name's Jez Cox. I'm not apologising for that, though. That's beyond my control. And I'm here with Adam Blythe, and we should be bringing you the finishing circuit, the big loop and the ascent of the Côte de la Mallette, which we believe our leading riders are on right now. The first time up what will be 3/4 of our finishing climb, which is the Mont Faucon. They're going to go 3/4 of the way up it, down the other side, and continue. As soon as we have live pictures, we'll be joining them. Thank you for your correspondence as well. I'm pleased to report, by the way, Adam, Sue Sharp got in touch to say, hey, well, she didn't say hey, I'm just putting a silent hey in there. I like all the wildlife chat, she says. We are seeing pictures again, though, so hang in there, Sue. We might come back to the lizard just to see what happened to that little mini beetle thing.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
You know, I'm hanging in there for the wildlife. That's a reduced peloton, definitely, of the 120 who started, but only by a few, though. You can see the back end just slowly disintegrating as they make their way up the Côte de la Mallette. And there's the gaps confirmed for you. So Christian, the young American, dropped from that, dropped from the peloton. And then we have a chasing group here, which I think it says is being led by the Euskaltel team. So we're going to have to get our heads around what's happened out here, Adam, while we've been missing pictures.
Yes, I think this is definitely the peloton there. So this is the group that is at 3:28. I think a couple of riders have attacked, like you said, from Euskaltel. Xavier Isasa and Xavier Mikel Azparan. They're at 2 minutes 10, so roughly a minute ahead of this chasing peloton at the minute. So, yeah, a little attack from within the peloton. It looks like the peloton might have just calmed down a little bit. Here's one of the Euskaltel riders that we've just got on our screens there, but it looks like the peloton might have lulled in action a little bit, and then the Euskaltel riders trying to take advantage of that. But they are on the climb now. The breakaway, the remains of it, only 3 of them left now. Rory Townsend. We have the other rider from Leopard, Emil Mikkel Vinjebo. And the last rider, the man with a lot of experience, the South African, Van Niekerk.
Yes, probably the 3 strongest riders in there as well. So down to 3. And Rory Townsend's had a hard day out already. He's been going for everything along the way. At least he now doesn't have Wesley Morrell with him to try and take away these points, because there will be 5, 3 and 1 mountains points available at the top of the Côte de la Mallette as they go past the turn point from where they will turn off in a lapse time for the finish at Montfaucon. Interesting move by the Euskaltel Euskadi riders, and it looks to me like they are going to be, one of them at least, is going to be reeled back in. And this is Francois Bidat doing the chasing on the front. Just behind him, the easily recognisable style of Guillaume Martin climbing out of the saddle. And there's a big group of favourites in there. We've just seen Ben O'Connor go through as well for the Agi Dessert Citroën team.
Thibaut Pinot is in there as well, number 1. On his back. But that peloton is definitely getting smaller. Coffin is still doing damage on the front, and it is reducing quite a lot, which is only going to help us into a very exciting final, but still with 3:28 back to the peloton from these riders, it's still quite a big gap with quite a bit of not too difficult terrain in the middle of this.
No, absolutely. Moni van Niekerk now on the front. They've entered Montfaucon itself, as you can see from the sign, and that's saying... Now, I think that 2K sign, I'll take that with a pinch of salt, Adam, because I don't know whether that means to the top of the climb or whether it means to the actual finish. It could be to the finish, couldn't it, in a lapse time?
It could be, yeah, but there's only, 300 metres difference, really. It says on paper it's a lot shorter, 2.1 kilometres at 6.6%. How they're doing this climb now, but I've had a little look on VeloViewer, and it is almost identical, apart from the last 300 metres, so, yeah. 1.8k to go, 1.7k to go until the top of the climb for the breakaway riders, I'm sure.
The moustaches are very popular in the pro peloton, seemingly at the moment. And this
and
is Mikel.
Tufts of hair.
Yes, look at that tuft of hair. Yeah, but it's in the middle though. It's not to one side.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. That's Asparan. He's also a fan, as you can see, from the massively turned-in levers. Look at them. That's quite wide bars to have such heavily turned-in levers as well. So he's obviously got a very specific hand position he's going for there. Vingegaard is swinging a little bit there. He's been dropped by these two as they go to the top. Bit of a conversation between Van Niekerk and Rory Townsend.
Probably discussing the points on the top there. Rory, obviously, is on equal mountain points at the minute, along with Wesley Mole, who has been dropped, so Rory's just probably checking if he can take the points and roll through.
That looked like a shake of the head to me as well. Certainly Van Niekerk said something to Townsend. Townsend shook his head and Van Niekerk shook his head. So I don't know whether there's some kind of collusion that's not going to happen there. Both of them get a bottle. And they will continue up this tough climb, which I'd have thought, Adam, those speed bumps are just damn annoying, aren't they, when you're getting into the rhythm of climb? You keep hitting these little speed bumps all the way up it.
Yeah, not ideal, but you have to remember on the other side of the speed bump there is a tiny little bit of downhill, Jez, on the way down the speed bump, which can be quite nice.
Good point.
But yeah, it's never nice, especially, I think if you're attacking, you have these speed bumps, it's just a little bit annoying, but it is what it is for these riders. They're not going to be too bothered about it. They're not going to be thinking, oh, God, these speed bumps.
This is the shallower section in the middle, which goes down to 7–8%, something like that. It steepens again before the top. And as you mentioned, Adam, it flattens a little bit towards the line, just over the last 100 metres. It was those last 80 metres where we saw, in the end, last year's winner go clear as well, Jesus Herrada. Not seen anything of Herrada just yet, and he's normally quite evident and clear at the front in amongst those Cofidis riders, but then there are a lot of them up there. We've seen a lot of Guillaume Martin. He had a good ride in the recent Paris-Camembert in horrible conditions as well. Just, when was it? Last week now. Wednesday of last week. Paris-Camembert. That was the last round, the 7th round of the Coupe de France. I say it has 10 more rounds yet to go this year. Some great races in there. My suspicion, Adam, is that this race, the Grand Besançon Dude, and tomorrow, the Tour du Jura, eventually might well find themselves either as a stage race or as one-day races in that Coupe de France, because this race in particular would make a great addition to the Coupe de France. But then there's a lot of races in there. Here we go, Van Niekerk up the inside. I think he fancies this one. He's certainly paying very close attention to Rory Townsend. Might be in for an interesting sprint here.
Yeah, I doubt it. Maybe an interesting sprint, but I doubt it. I mean, Van Niekerk hasn't really got much to gain, whereas Rory'd still take second, so he'd still be leading that points classification. So if he did go for it, and he just to take the points, it would be a little bit of a waste of energy for both of them, really. He should roll across the line, concentrate on the job in hand, which is getting to the finish with enough of a gap to maybe hang on for a win or just get a decent enough place in. But yeah, for these riders, they just want to stick to working well together, get over the top, and then just try and hold on to that lead as much as they possibly can, which with the peloton reducing it down to 2:37 now, back to the main peloton. It's coming down quickly.
Saw a sign out there for the Thibaut Pinot fan club, of which, of course, there are many, such a popular rider, and in this, that he has said will be his last year of racing. I don't know if you saw this, Adam, but I did see that he said that this will be his last year of racing unless he wins the French national title. So I'm kind of hoping for some sort of collusion amongst the riders and that they just sort of make it happen. And then he's got to carry on for another year anyway.
I just find it so odd that unless I do this, I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
It's just bonkers. But yeah, I mean, that's what he wants to do then.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think he is, and I think it's well understood and well reported that he's a rider for whom just winning big bike races and achieving in Grand Tours, although it's something that he knows he has the physical capacity for, isn't necessarily the predominant thing, the most important thing in his life. He seems to have you mentioned his goats earlier, but a sort of quite a healthy balance. There's the top of the GPM, the mountains classification. So Rory Townsend has ridden through there first ahead of Morny van Niekerk. So I'm not sure what the conversation was about, and we'll probably never know. Maybe a little bit more chat now between the two of them. But there we go. And there's the peloton on...
I think that back to Thibaut Pinot is that he knows I think it's even more difficult for him to win now. That's probably why he wants to stop. If he wins the French Nationals a year in that jersey, amazing. But at the same time, I think it's getting increasingly harder and harder for him to win race, and that's probably why he's thinking about stopping rather than just trying to win bike races. He's not with all due respect to Thibaut Pinot, he's a great rider and got some great results, but it's getting increasingly harder and harder to win. And I can imagine, sadly for him, that, as we spoke about before, the amount of effort, the amount of sacrifice, the amount of time away from home you have to put in just to scrape a top 15, a top 10, whatever it might be. If you want to win and you're so used to winning and you don't see anything other than winning as a great result, that can become increasingly difficult to motivate you to carry on riding for the amount of sacrifice you have to make.
He is right there with the number 1 on his back, Thibaut Pinot, the man we're discussing. He's one of those riders who's stuck with the quite old school super wide bars. He must be rocking a 44, maybe even a 46.
No, a 40.
40,
Jez,
no joke.
Come on.
No way.
A 40 is a standard bar. A 36 is a narrow bar these days, but yeah.
The 36 is the UCI minimum, isn't it? Something like that, depending on where you measure it from.
Yeah, Thibaut Pinot definitely on like a 40, 100%. A 46 is like, it's almost 50 centimetres.
Yeah, I know. It's like
a mountain bike bar.
Yeah. Right, as it is our Citroën team now laying it on over the top as well. And this is where the two courses split. And we start to descend away from the Montfaucon to take in this big loop, 46k. So we're just into it now, 45k, depending where you measure it from. Going southward, encircling effectively the aerodrome, the runway strip at Lavez, and then coming back to the Doubs River to run alongside it and start again that tough final climb as we've just seen, and it will be even tougher next time as they continue to the very top of Montfaucon. It's a fitting finale, been taken steady hard there. Next time up it'll be all in. I wonder how, you know, Adam, I was talking about how this race and tomorrow's Tour du Jura and then Sunday's Tour du Doubs, if the three of them could be linked up to be a stage race, I wonder how that might change things, because of course any one of the riders who's doing all three of these could do their bit and then pull out for the day and save a bit of energy. Of course, I'm stating the glaringly obvious here, but in a stage race you can't do that. Does that mean that these three one-day races end up being raced harder and they're more exciting to watch than if it was a stage race?
I'd say so, yeah, definitely. I think if it was a stage race, you get riders that, you know, might have a bad day and think, right, I'll save it for tomorrow or for the next day. Whereas if you're in a stage race, you can back off a little bit, but yet you still have to carry on and finish the race. Where I think, you know, a one-day race you can go all in for to try and get the win, whereas a stage race you go in for on one day, maybe the next, but you've ultimately got to get round that day, which is going to hurt. But AG2R here definitely pushing on down these narrow roads through the twist and turn. It's reduced peloton already, maybe about 50 riders in there, 45, 50 riders, and the way that AG2R are riding, they want to make it difficult for riders even 10, 15, 20th position back in the peloton right now. 137 gap as well, they've definitely brought it down.
There isn't that much ascent actually in the next sort of 30, 40k. There's lots of ups and downs and lots of twists and turns as well as they go southward and then go back to the river again. It is clockwise, 45k as I say, but not much in the way of long climbs until they get back to the base of the Côte de la Mallette, turning away from the river and climbing up to Montfaucon again. So it is all going to be about that big finale. But they've still 135 of gap to close up to the four riders. Well, two riders in the lead, and then three other riders who are somewhere between them and this chasing peloton. Ben O'Connor there sitting third wheel, and just off the back of Eddie Lahutouze again. I think I've said his name in a slightly different way to the way I said it before. I'll try and bottom out that name by the end of this broadcast. The 20-year-old Groupama FDG rider, and we've got a detached group at the front here as well at the moment, being driven by Agi Dessert Citroën team, and that is definitely Ben O'Connor, the big Aussie, sitting third wheel there.
Yep, Ben O'Connor, Thibaut Pinot just behind the Arkea Samsic rider, being overtaken by his teammate. And that little gap was to Guillaume Martin. I think if everybody's watched Guillaume Martin in the past, they know that he is not the most confident descender. So with those twists and turns, the little narrow corners there, he was always going to lose a slight bit of distance. And that's probably why we saw that gap, and probably why we're seeing this gap back to more riders behind, that someone's just not quite that confident on the small narrow roads, the accelerations out the corners, and as we've seen on that kind of twists and turns, gaps do open as we're seeing right now.
Actually, Adam, there's loads of gaps. I'm just wondering whether it is the descent that's done that, or whether there's been a crash we've not seen off camera, because the peloton looked to be much more together. That is bizarre, because that's not the whole peloton by any means, is it? And I mean, maybe that is just the effect of the climb of the Côte de la Mallette, because we saw them going into the base of the Mallette together, but we're left with something like 50, maybe 60 riders there in that group that are chasing effectively these two now. Yeah,
I think it was the downhill. They came over the top there as one peloton, as one group with about 50, 60 riders, but we saw AG2R pushing on the downhill peloton, the lefts and rights with little roundabouts on the downhill. And if the front rider is sprinting out of there at 1,000 watts, the back rider has to be, braking later. That gap is increasingly growing out to the rider in front of you. So I think it's just the lefts and rights, the twists and turns where gaps open on a downhill, and sadly riders can't always hold the wheel, and that's where you get the gap. So I'm pretty sure it was just from the acceleration through the corners, stringing things out from AG2R.
Well, there it is. That is, I think, for the moment, what we will call our peloton, who are 134 down. And I'm wondering whether we've missed some of Emil Vingegaard and Charlie Quarterman being fed back in there, actually, because I think they might be back in the fold already. But we'll look up the road, see if we can look in amongst those motorbikes to see individual riders that are still out there. Vingegaard was the last of those leading riders to be dropped. There's an awful lot of traffic between the peloton and our leaders as we look up that long straight road. This is a road going out in the direction of La Cheviote, going eastward, the most easterly point of the whole course in the third edition of the classic Grand Besançon Double today. Yeah, that is Vingegaard there in the light blue, and actually he might be closing up on Townsend and Van Niekerk. He's getting a little bit closer again, I think.
Yeah, just over the top of the climb, these two will have been working well together, but if you're on your own you can settle into that rhythm a little bit. But I don't think, by the looks of things with the cars being there, he's going to make inroads on two rides that are working well together. I think that's going to be a very long, lonely journey for him until that peloton catches him, which is not going to be too far away. We'll probably get shots of the peloton coming. We can just see the rider Vingegaard just in front there, but the peloton just about to come to our shot, no doubt.
They have a kilometre to go, which I think we might have just seen Rory Townsend tightening up his shoes for the next sprint point in Sun. And as they go through there, it'll be an interesting one, because it is Rory Townsend and Morny Van Niekerk who sit on the highest points in the sprints classification. Van Niekerk has been second or third to Townsend, who's won every one of the sprints so far. I should point out, I mean sprints and not mountains points, because it's been the same riders going for all of these so far.
These little roads here as well, even though it does look, oh there we go, that's a better shot, we can see it is slightly uphill. I was going to say they don't look too challenging, but these little drags, the little inclines on roads like this after a hard climb, you can see in the background there that tower, that's where they're going to the next time up. These little drags over the top, if you're just near the back of the peloton now, the peloton's already accelerating over the top, that string things out more. If you're the back rider, you're still climbing as the others are on the descent already. So as we can see again, gaps start to open up, riders start to suffer even more, and it's just these little bits of acceleration, these little bits of small play on tactics where you can take advantage and put the hurt on the riders if they're ill positioned, as some riders are.
That was confirmation there that Rory Townsend took the sprint at Sun and therefore wins the sprints classification overall. And we should expect to see that rewarded. So he'll have something good to show for his day out.
That's the sprints, not the KOM though, isn't it? KOM is a different one.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Virtual KOM, he has won 13 points to Wesley Molly, who's on 8 points. So the sprints and the KOM, Rory Townsend has won both of them.
He's had a good day out, and as we mentioned at the beginning, he is very much a man full of confidence right now. I don't even, do you know what? From my experience, and I've watched Rory since he was a very young rider. I'm not even sure it's so much that he's in good form. He obviously is. I really do think it's confidence with him, and he's had that fantastic win, as you say, from the breakaway at the Route Tourangelle, and then being on the breakaway, long breakaway at Brabantse Peel midweek. He just starting to accept that he's a hitter. And settling into that expectation of being in the breakaways and of challenging for jersey classification and what have you. It is an exciting one to watch, as I say, particularly, you know what it's like, Adam, if you've watched a rider develop from when they were young, racing at domestic level and then getting through and just building in confidence and starting to accept their place in the peloton at this level.
Yeah, I think for Rory it can be quite difficult for him just because he's won one race already this year from the breakaway. He's a very strong rider, a great rider. And I think, proving to himself that he can win a bike race from the breakaway, he needs to prove to himself and back himself that he can do it from within a peloton. Today would be a very difficult day to do it from for Rory with the amount of climbers that is and the terrain it's on. So it's great to see him in the break again. But I think for a race that suits his characteristics, Rory going for it from within inside the peloton as a leader of his team would be great to see, and see him with the backing of the team on a day that does suit him as well.
These long, open, exposed roads, though, I remember this from last year, aren't a nice place for a breakaway to try and hide either, because there's not much cover. As we watch the very, very familiar style, close to the end of his career, as he said himself, of Thibaut Pinot, tucked in, and seemingly, looking at his position and the fact where he is in that group, he seems to be their man for today. Understandable, so he's only ridden this race once before and was 5th behind Biniam Gamay in the first edition of this race. Didn't ride last year, and he looks on it today, and certainly well protected by his team too. He's on the radio as well by the looks of it, Adam. And there's confidence. There is Jesus Herrada, last year's winner, former Spanish champion, stripes on his sleeves. Guillaume Martin there just reaching into his back pocket on the back of that string there. Mons Peters in the white jersey of Agile Desert Citroën team just behind him. And there's Ben O'Connor, the big Aussie. Now, a lot of the big favourites right up there at this point. And that is Roger Adria, the Spaniard back there for Equipo Kelm Pharma. Number 71 in the, I never know what to call that. I call it minty green. It's not minty green of Kelm Pharma. You got a better description, Adam? It's just, how would you describe that green?
Green.
How did I know you were going to say that? Yeah, grassy. It's grassy, isn't it? There you go. We're looking down on some grass. It's a kind of grassy green. Anyway, there we go.
Sea green, I'd say.
Sea green. Sea. Yeah. Oh, you like a green sea? Yeah, I know. That's a pretty. Yeah, kind of a bit of blue to it, isn't there? Bluey green. Right, we'll go with that. That's a rather smart-looking small holding. I suspect that's something of a tourist trap. That one, looking at all the chairs laid out and the little huts dotted around it. Very smart. We just rolled past the Golf de Besançon as well, but I don't actually think it's a golf course. I think actually what we went past was a motocross circuit by the looks of it. By the way, while we get the front end shot of Moni van Niekerk here, Adam, can I just say what a cracking jersey Saint-Michel Aubert 93 have moved to this year. I just wish it went down to the shorts, and I know you're going to disagree with me on that, but I love that yellowy orange fade. It's absolutely beautiful. I just think they should go the full hog. Forget the black shorts and just go yellowy orange all the way down. You're going to disagree with me, I know that.
No? Great.
You can, though.
Great.
I once had a bike in that colour. I had a Cannondale CAD 2, which went from a yellow at the front to an orange at the back, and I've never forgiven myself for selling it because it was just like absolutely beautiful.
You can get another one sprayed,
Yeah,
Jez.
I know, but I don't have. Yeah, I've got 2 small children. I can't justify the buying of a frame just for artwork on the wall.
They'll appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it's like an heirloom, isn't it? I can pass that on. Yeah. Here you go, kids. Here's a CAD 2 aluminium frame that has no forks in it, no gears. You can't ride it, but beautiful colour. Yeah.
Nice. I'd go with it. 1:15, it says from the race director there on the motorbike, and we have 1:18, so a couple of seconds to play with. Let's call it 1:15 to make it a little bit more exciting. But Rory Townsend, if you're getting reports from us live on air, it is 1:18. Oh no, it's gone down to 1:15 now. Just trying to make the breakaway feel a bit better there with a few more extra seconds.
In the most exposed part of this finishing circuit, wind shouldn't play too much of a factor, but it's a slight, ever so slight cross headwind in this direction. They're then going to turn back into the wind to head southward through Mamirol. But the wind hasn't really played much of a feature so far today that we've noticed anyway. It's around about 10, 12 kilometres per hour blowing up from the, southwest. Blowing just at their backs right now before they turn slightly into it down to Mamirol. And that is the eastern edge, the second straight, if you like, of this kind of rectangle they're taking in, which will take them back towards the city of Besançon. They don't go right back into the city. They started in the city at, around about 11:30 this morning on the Esplanade des Droits de l'Homme. Now, in my pidgin French, I think that means the Esplanade of the Rights of Men. So there'll be some historical context behind that, but that's where they started at 11:30. Did this big loop, taking themselves anti-clockwise for around about 100 kilometres to finish on the circuit they're on now, which is the much hillier part over in the east on the northern foothills of the Alps and the rolling climbs. They're on the flatter part of it now, really effectively riding the plateau that sits above Besançon, and it's all going to be now, by the looks of it, about the drop down to the river, the race along the edge of the river, and starting the Côte de la Malette, which, although is classified at what is it classified at? Just under 4 kilometres. Effectively, it's about 6.5k of climbing once you take in the lower part of it, climbing away from the river. Our suspicion is it's going to be these riders in this group who are going to be contesting that finish on top of Montfaucon, but they've first of all got to catch the leaders, and that is now just Rory Townsend of Ireland and the South African Morny van Niekerk, who are still putting up a good fist of staying away. There they are in the distance. Let me remind viewers that the vast majority of this field of riders have got tomorrow's Tour du Jura to contend with as well, which forms the second part of this loosely unofficial, although seemingly slightly official, kind of halfway between the two, stage race that isn't a stage race. It's called the Challenge, or the Challenge Franc-Comtois, which is the amalgamation of the results from the Classic Grand Besançon, which you're watching right now, the Tour du Jura, which Adam and I are bringing you tomorrow, and then the Tour de Doubs, which is on Sunday. Those three 1.1 races, all back-to-back. Some of the riders who are riding Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday, interestingly enough, are not doing the Tour de Doubs, I noticed, on Sunday, and preparing for it. But in a way, Adam, I'd have thought today's race and tomorrow's race at the Tour de Jura are probably quite good preparation in terms of course type for someone who's riding Flèche. The sort of undulations along the way, tough rolling course, and then a nasty final climb, although this is not quite as nasty, I think, as the Mur de Huy, or as short and steep either.
No, definitely not. Mur de Huy is it's just basically a wall in front of you, but
yeah,
the travel, the expense for the teams doing this as well, it's it all adds up, and for the riders, you know, doing this, they can go and replicate it somewhere else. They can go training equally just as hard nowadays as well, with the amount of training these riders do, motor pace and all that kind of stuff. So for them, there's the chance of crashing in these races, which they don't want to do before a couple of big classics, a couple of big weekends coming up for them. So it's understandable why they're not doing this race, these races, should I say, in preparation.
If you have recently just joined us, my name is Ches Cox, and I'm alongside Adam Blythe. And these are the final, they will be imminently, the final 30 kilometres of this, the third only edition of the classic Grand Besançon Doubs, which was won 2 years ago by Binny Girmay, right at the beginning of his breakthrough period of his career, really, coming through, and then, of course, peaking at the moment at which he won Ghent-Wevelgem, and then, of course, going on to win that stage of the Giro d'Italia. So we can just see Ben O'Connor. I'm sure Ben O'Connor is riding just ahead of Clément Berthet, who's wearing his number 13 upside down. He's got one upside down and one the right way round. So I'm not sure that's always the way it's done. I thought I've seen them ridden upside down both times, but there we go. They're crossing under the railway, so I'm going to check my mapping here to see. I think they've got a little bit further around this loop than I'd actually twigged. Myself, like I think Adam and most of our co-commentators, use the VeloViewer app, by the way, at home, folks. If you wonder why sometimes we seem to have loads of specific detail about where they are and what they're rolling through, most of us are using pretty much exactly the same app and interface that the teams use at VeloViewer. Ben, who runs VeloViewer, is a fantastic support, I guess, to the commentators, teams and what have you. But you people at home, of course, can have access to VeloViewer yourselves. Just check it out online. I'm not paid to say that by any means, by the way. I'm just highlighting just how useful it is in following the race and following its various different gradients across the climbs as well, and being able to then overlay data that you might have if you've ridden in these parts of the world from your Strava account as well. It's remarkably useful. Really, in a way, Adam, has sort of revolutionised the way team briefings are done. I've heard a few moanings recently from press officers about how long these team briefings take nowadays, because they have just so much data and information to relay to teams. And I guess you'd have seen that towards the end of your career as well, just the amount of information that a sports director can use.
Yeah, go on, call the press officers out, because I want to know who they are. Who's complaining about the detail?
Actually, do you know what? I was actually referring to, I think, a recent chat about it on the cycling podcast. There you go. So it wasn't bad. It was just like noticing how much longer they take now.
Yeah, they do take a long time. There's so much information they've got now as well that ultimately bike riding's not changed over the past 20 years. They just want more information. Riders want more things to complain about. I think if they didn't have this information given to them about something that they deemed important, then they'll have something to complain about. So they say, well, you did have that information there as a sports director on your map, and did you not have a look at it, this, that and the other? But ultimately the riders need to take responsibility for themselves and be in a good position when they are told to be in a good position, and if they're not, they're not. I think bike riding is relied on a lot of technology these days, not only for the riders with their head units, giving them the information, how long to go on each climb they've got, what turn's coming up next. You can highlight different points and put that into your computer where you deem is possible, so you get an alert saying you need to be at the front now. But ultimately, if you study in the road book and you're looking at this in detail where you think is a crucial part of the race, you'll have all that information anyway yourself that's locked inside your head.
Radios, head units, GPS. You know what was always reassuring for me as a really old guy, Adam, watching this, was watching Paris-Roubaix, was how many of the riders, seemingly all of them of course, had a piece of paper, biro and sellotape stuck to their stems, still with all the sectors marked onto it. It can't go wrong as long as you've used enough sellotape. Even if it hacks with rain, gets covered in mud, you just wipe it down. It will all be written on there. It can't lose its battery. You might have a bike change and lose it all, but the old sellotape, pen and paper doesn't seem to have gone anywhere, does it?
No, it won't go anywhere for a long time as well. You can always work out within your head how far it's to go to the next sector, just because in a race like that, you know, the director is a long way behind in the cars. They can be saying it's so far until the next sector, and you might be another 3k up the road than that. And yeah, it's the bits between the sectors where you might need that information, not on the sector, because ultimately you'll know what each and every one of those sectors will be like from recons, etc. Great to have the technology, something that shouldn't be relied on as a bike rider, I don't think.
Just seen Moni van Niekerk resetting his head unit there, possibly clicking his way through the kilometres and trying to maintain some kind of average wattage of some sort. I thought, Adam, you'll probably have something to say about that. They just rolled through Le Grateris and they're now into the southern part of this finishing loop as well. They head now westward, back in the direction of the Doubs River, and then they have that northern sweep to take in the very edge of Besançon and the run into Montfaucon. Under 30k to go now, and the chase being led by 3 teams. Groupama FDJ predominantly in that dark blue there, with 1s and 2s from AG Desert Citroën and Cofidis François Bidard, who's been doing a lot of work at the front as well. Yeah, Adam, I mentioned the Moni van Niekerk, they're pressing his button. I'm often a little bit confused. I mean, I use a head unit and a power meter now when I'm riding, but I'm not racing. What are they? And yet, so often I see the riders pressing a lap button. When would they be pressing that? I guess it differs for different riders, but what are they looking at?
They're not always pressing a lap button. They're always pressing a different screen with a map on it, showing them how far they've got to go. They might have a screen where it's just watts on it. They might have a screen that's just speed and time on it, or just kilometres. Each and every rider's head unit is different in terms of what they want to put on there, what they can put on there. So they might just be taking it off the screen so they don't have to look at the watts. They might be looking how far they've got to go. They might be looking at the terrain. They might be looking at a graphic in terms of how much climbing they've got left. There's so many things that you can look at, and each rider is very, very different in terms of what they want to look at. So yeah, who knows what they might be looking at?
Might be checking their text messages, maybe something like that.
There is also that.
Thibaut Pinot is, I find, watching him there, so hard to read, because he does have a way of making it always look quite hard. He rolls around quite a lot, pulls a lot of faces, doesn't he? And I can never tell, out of 10, what number he would be at, because he blows his cheeks out a lot, particularly when he knows he's on camera. I don't know whether he lays it on or whether he's always like that. It would be almost impossible for me to know, really, without being up there alongside him, and that is highly unlikely. But he's been well placed throughout.
He has been. I love watching him, even if he is putting it on for the cameras. Brilliant. Love it. Give us a show. It's interesting, two of the Francis Jour riders, they're the Groupama riders, they are running different tyres. I know that Thibaut Pinot there and another one of the riders, I think it is number 3 there, Lenny Martinez, they are running white ball tyres on that. It's not going to be for looks, but maybe Continental coming out with a different tyre there, a little bit faster rolling resistance. What
do you mean it's not going to be? They look wicked.
They do look wicked, but they will. Well, the riders might be bothered what it looks like, but the sponsor ain't going to be bothered. If someone said to you, here's a faster tyre, I'm sure that the majority of that peloton will use it. But yeah, two of the riders out of Groupama are using different tyres by the looks of things.
And that is interesting as well. You mentioning Lenny Martinez at the back of that string as well. There's me banging on about it being all about Thibaut Pinot today. Maybe it is about Lenny Martinez, the 19-year-old. I'm not suggesting they're in lead-out formation right now, but the compact young Frenchman is right at the back of that string. As I say, son of, for those of you who know your sport going way back, son of Miguel Martinez, the what am I talking about? The year 2000 mountain bike Olympic champion, and they went on to be world champion in the same year as well, of course. Rode for Mapei as well, I think, in amongst the early stages of his career, if I'm not mistaken, and raced a fair bit on the road. In actual fact, I've road raced with his dad. I've been in a breakaway with his dad, of all things, in a race in France, and he's still racing now as we watch a red kite just popping up on our screen there above the riders, looking down. It's a non-predatory bird, Adam, a red kite, so it won't be looking out for taking one of the riders. It is merely a scavenger, a red kite. Next bit of my animal facts. He's not even listening to me. I
am listening to you. I am.
I've got a strong following of animal and fish fans, you know, who tune in specifically for this kind of thing. I'd arranged for that red kite to pop up at that point, and you missed it. Anyway, back to these cyclists who are pedalling their bicycles through the French countryside in the direction of those two breakaway riders, Rory Townsend and Morley van Niekerk, who are doing a very good job of holding off this lot. They're holding off the might of Groupama FDG in combination with Agidezert Citroën and Cofidis, who are still trying to chase him, and that chasing is doing damage to the back end of this group too.
They are indeed. I mean, 36 seconds. It's nice to see Groupama, Cofidis and AG2R all working so well together. They've not said, no, we're not going to work, we're not going to leave it all up to another team. They're all equally committed to bring each of their team leaders, you know, in for a good enough chance to win this bike race. And with 26k to go, 33 seconds, they will definitely be fighting it out at the finish. But it's nice to see one team's just not taken a back step and said, you know what, we're not working anymore, which you often see in bike racing. So it's great to see the big three French teams all working so well together.
Yeah, I'm not sure RKO Samsic would be too pleased to hear you say that, but we haven't seen much of them so far, have we? The boys in red.
They are there or thereabouts.
Here?
Ooh, burn.
No, I mean it. I'm trying to think. I kind of think when I've seen a red jersey with black shorts, other than Cofidis, which is easily distinguishable, at the front.
They've been up there. They've been up there. They're in that little bubble of riders halfway back. Lotto Destiny, a couple of riders in there, but RK Samsic, yeah, definitely one of the bigger teams. But the three, I'm going to say the big three, older ones within the peloton.
No, I'd agree with you. There's a fair bit of bants going on between these two. They've been having a lot of chat. Certainly, Morley van Niekerk and is having a bit of a laugh with Rory Townsend. I think they know that their day is coming to an end, but they seem to have got on well together, these two.
They do indeed. They've worked well together. And I think in a breakaway, that's what you want. Especially if there's just two, you don't want one rider sitting on more than another. You have to recognise each other's weaknesses. A bit of a pothole there on the inside with a bit of wet. I think with it being quite a small peloton, as Rory getting on the radio, he might just be feeding that information back. Big hole on the left-hand side if you've got any teammates in the group there. But just look how narrow the road is as well. So even in a small group, riders within that peloton will probably be trying to get towards the front, move up a little bit just so they're in a good position. We've seen that it's split on the last downhill in the peloton. Riders just losing the wheel a bit. Definitely want to be getting in front of Guillaume Martin right now. Well,
they are riding northward up through the Bois d'Anglin, which is the d'Anglin Wood, for those of you who don't know your French, but I suspect you'll have picked that up by now. Once they exit that, they'll be running right along the very edge of the Besançon Aerodrome, which I did a little bit of research on, trying to find out what it's used for, and it's very much a training aerodrome for sending flights out, small planes across the Alps, practicing low flying over rolling mountains as well. Apparently, some of the sort of chartered and kind of tourist type flights for there are literally just about that, getting up in the air and taking in the French Alps over to Switzerland and back. Very nice if you can afford it. Not quite so sure about the economic impact of it, as they're both on the radio looking to try and find out what the gap is. I wonder whether these two might be hoping at it in this after the last climb, that there might be a group coming across to them that they could be absorbed into, but that is no group, is it? That is a still pretty big peloton.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a group coming across to them, apart from this very large group, which is the peloton.
Yeah.
And I think even if a group did come across at this stage in the race, they wouldn't stand much of a chance, respectfully, to those two riders when they got onto that final climb, which again, 3.3k at 9.4% average gradient. So a tough little kicker just before the finish today. Well,
it is. Yeah, it is. I think I'd forgotten, last time up here, I'd forgotten how hard it is from last year, actually. It is a real testy climb, this. And I think we're seeing, and we will see in the years to come, why the organisers of this race, the team organisation Marchot, are set on building this finish at the top of Montfaucon. It would not surprise me if they had their eyes on it being used at some point in the Tour de France. That would not surprise me at all with these organisers. Apologies once again to those of you who hung with us during their loss of pictures earlier on. If you've recently joined us for our live pictures this Friday, you may not be aware that we had a fair amount of time. Somebody pointing out to me, Adam, and asking whether it was us that talked our way through the stage of the Saudi Tour last year, where we had no pictures. Actually, it wasn't you and I, it was Brian and I, and it was the first stage of the Saudi Tour last year, not this year, last year, and we had no pictures, but we did the whole broadcast just looking at pictures of the finish line. And towards the end, what we were doing was trying to estimate who we thought would come around the corner to the finish line first, and it was Caleb Ewan. Now we spent a couple of hours talking about who we thought would pop around the finish line first. So the views from up there, and I think a few of our correspondents on Twitter pointing out that they were infinitely better than the sort of tumbleweed road of the finish of the Saudi Tour Stage 1 2022, as it was. Yes, that was a hard day's work. Thank you for hanging with us, folks. I think we might have a few unanswered questions, so if we've got a long delay before the podium presentation, maybe we'll get back to a few of them along the way. Some of you helping us out, which was very good of you. So we're under 30 seconds now to our two leading riders, and the chase is not absolutely hammering either, is it, Adam? With two riders there, they know the gap's coming back as they go past the end of the Besançon Aerodrome that I was talking about.
No, they're not hammering, but they are riding at a very, I'm going to say, a solid tempo. You know, we're not getting a bunch up of riders. Each rider is fairly strung out that road. I know it's on small roads, left and right, but I'd say they are riding pretty hard in that peloton right now. You know, with all these little bumps in the roads, it does take it out of the riders, just these little inclines when someone is pushing on as they are, and the riders riding on the front have been riding very cleverly in terms of when they get onto small roads, pressing on a little bit, stringing things out a little bit more. 27 seconds to these two in front, and Rory Townsend and Van Niekerk here have been doing a fantastic job of holding them off for as long as they are doing, but I think they know the inevitable's coming. You can see the riders bunching up a little bit more now after that descent, trying to get towards the front, trying to get in a better position. Another small road, another left turn here coming up, so they want to be closer to the front.
Talking of holding them off, the race as a whole has done well to hold off any rain. It looks lovely and sunny there now, but there is rain forecast for late afternoon in the Franche-Comté region where this race is, and I think it might mean we get some rain tomorrow for the Tour de Jura. We will see. But as it stands, ideal racing conditions by the looks of it. Beautiful spring sunshine. And it's still the boys in dark blue of Groupama FDG who are adding the greatest numbers to this. There's RKS Samsic. There was me wondering where they are. I'm suspecting one of those four there. In fact, I think the second rider from the back is Elie Gesbert by the looks of it. Looks like his build. And I think I can spot alongside him Adri Ponomar, the Ukrainian, who as mentioned a couple of times since the start of the season, he's desperate to get some big results this year, understandably, particularly what's going on back in his home country, but he's very aware, from what he said, of his platform that he has in this sport, his opportunity to get big results as well, and gets noticed as a Ukrainian performing well at this level. So we obviously wish him our best. We wish our best to all these riders. Change of team for Ponomar, of course. He was one of Gianni Savio's charges in the drone hopper days, finding himself at RKS Samsic this year. Done quite a lot of new riders coming into that team over the course of the last winter. I keep talking about the winter as if it was yesterday. Of course, we're eating our way into this season, as Adam and I were saying. Getting used to new kits, a few name changes, not too many. Actually, things haven't, I don't know how you feel, Adam, but things haven't been too bad at the start of this season in terms of team name changes and kit designs. It's not, last year seemed to be a particularly testy one, certainly for me anyway. I don't know how you felt about that.
Soudal Quickstep was the main one. It was,
yes,
hard
tricky
to get your name around. But yeah, you settle into it a couple of months in. It's just recognising riders and riders that have maybe had not the greatest start to the season, have a good middle part of the season. You're always surprised when you see them in different kits, but yeah, I think we're quite settled into it now. Well, I am anyway, I think.
Absolutely. I'll remind viewers, of course, this weekend is all about Amstel Gold on Sunday for both the men and the women. There are some territory restrictions on that, though, so do make sure you check your app or wherever you're picking up our feed. Unlike this race, which is available worldwide as well, I believe, except possibly in France. There's one exception. So wherever you're watching us around the world, if you're watching this live, thank you for being with Adam and I, particularly if you've hung on there through our loss of pictures earlier. You're watching our two lone leaders, Rory Townsend and Morny van Niekerk, the Irishman and the South African, who've colluded well today, and they've had a right go at each other in some of these sprints as well, but right now they are just surviving. They've actually extended their lead ever so slightly to over 30 seconds, but you sense that, well, in fact, we know the end game in this race is going to be a particularly pointy one, and by the time we get to the top of Montfaucon, many of the riders on our screen right now will not be in contention anymore. Of course, suspicion is that these two will also not be in contention, but let's watch how things unfold.
They're doing a good job so far. I mean, the two very committed riders, as we've been saying, and they're working very well together. These small roads will be in their benefit as well, to be able to, you know, push the tempo on through the corners, keep rolling over the little bumps as much as they can. I think they just need to try and increase their lead as much as they can and not really think about this last climb. Just, you know, work well together, get the most out of each other as you can, and then when you get onto that climb, it's just a case of surviving as long as you can and riding your own tempo. This peloton, when they get on there, they are going to be, I think with Guillaume Martin in there, they're going to be eyeballs out from pretty much the bottom of that climb all the way to the top.
Yeah, they're still sitting on this kind of flat plateau at the moment. There are a couple of kicks, though, before they get to the descent, which takes them down to river level. A couple of little rises you can see just in front of them. They're riding in the direction of that hill there, but they're going to go kind of across the other side of it and straight down to river level, along the edge of the Doubs, and then they turn away from it, turn literally up the bank away from the big river and start the climb up to Montfaucon via the Côte de la Malette. Second time they've taken in that climb today. Of course, we rejoined pictures just as they were coming towards the top of it. And it was where we saw Rory Townsend take more mountains points. These are the big teams of last year's winner in Cofidis, Jesus Herrada, last year's second place finisher, Victor Lafay, both there, Guillaume Martin there as well. 3 riders, all on their day, when they're feeling good, capable of winning this race, although I would suspect actually the sprinty kick finish uphill of Lafay and Herrada does put them probably ahead of Guillaume Martin. But I don't know what you think, Adam, what Guillaume Martin would be like in a finish like this up against the likes of those two. I don't for one second expect to see the 3 of them sprinting out the win together, but you never know. They took 1 and 2 last year.
Yeah, I think Guillaume Martin needs to go hard all the way from the bottom and make it as hard as he can all the way up. Just settle into his rhythm early on and not have the fast accelerations from the other riders, the punchy accelerations. Guillaume Martin is definitely a rider that needs to settle into a hard rhythm. So I think for him, if he's going to win this race, he needs to go from the bottom, go hard, distance as many riders as he can, and hopefully not many riders for him anyway, that they'll be able to hang on to his wheel. But that is going to be very, very difficult for him to do so. Especially the likes of Pino in there, who does like to jump around and not the huge, high, hard, constant tempo. I mean, it's only going to be a 10-minute effort, realistically, for them on this climb up to the finish, but with the steeper parts of the top, you do need to, if you're trying to win this race, have something there to be able to accelerate up that part and not blow your doors off too early.
Yeah, this could be a really good finish for Thibaut Pinot. I did mention earlier that he's only ever done it once before and was 5th on that occasion in the first edition of this race. I can certainly see him coping with the steeper sections of that once the pace is really up, where it's up to 17% really well. Let's see though. Let's see if it is him his team is fully behind here. But I keep mentioning the back of that string, the last rider, if that should mean anything, is Lenny Martinez, the 19-year-old Frenchman. There he is, just getting a gel down by the looks of it, or yeah, squeezing a gel down, I think. And all the while, Victor Lafay and Jesus Herrada, Guillaume Martin, those 3 just sit in between Groupama FDJ and AG Desert Citroën back there. And they've got a little group of riders just ahead of the boys in red, Arkea Samsic, who maybe have done the sensible thing, Adam. Maybe the fact that I've not seen them, there are definitely 3 or 4 of them there, maybe even 5, just ahead of Lotto Destiny. I wonder whether they and Lotto Destiny are keeping their powder dry, letting those other 3 teams do all the chasing and maybe saving just that little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need. I think anyone in that peloton still, there is zero need for them to chase. If there's a few riders, if you have a few teammates, there is zero need to chase because AG2R, Groupama and Cofidis are doing all that hard work for them at the minute. So for them, sit back, sit in the wheel, save as much as you can, be as efficient as you can, and just hope that you've got the legs on the last climb and you can save as much as possible, because they're getting towed to the line by 3 other teams at the minute, which is fantastic, especially, I'd say even now, you know, even Groupama, AG2R and Cofidis, you'd expect at least one of them to say, no, look, you got to put the pressure on AG2R more, or you got to put the pressure on FDJ more, but they're all sharing it so nicely.
Yes, it's all rather too nice. You know, you're right, you've used that word nice. It's going to get nasty in a minute, that's for sure. Oh, that's a well-marked pothole. That's definitely
wasn't even a pothole, that was like a
ramp.
Crikey, just a concrete block in a pothole.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's uphill and they won't be going too fast, but yeah, that looked dangerous.
I think it might have had a little bit of local appendage added to it. We might see it again when the peloton go past. I'm not even sure it was. I think it was a piece of cardboard. There it is on the right-hand side.
Yeah, you can see it just there. Hopefully no one's going to hit it. That is...
I've got one of those things that I use for mountain bike coaching. It's called an MTB hopper. It looks just like that, but the idea is to send riders about 4 feet in the air. So not ideal on a road. Anyway,
probably do the same thing. But yeah,
yes.
this is another one of these climbs now. You see the gap start to come down on these two breakaway riders. On paper, this doesn't look like much of a hard climb when you've got that last climb on the profile, but this is definitely one. You can see Rory Townsend, little ring right up to the top end of his cassette there in a small gear, and the peloton all bunching up together now, trying to move up a little bit, get in a good position over the top, and they drop down. They have a tiny little down and a little kicker and uphill. Then they've got a good run of about 3-4k downhill before they get next to the river, and then that final climb. So once they get over this little bump, a little downhill, another little uphill, and then if you're not in position for that final climb, it's going to cost you in an effort at the bottom of the next climb that you do not want to make. So I'm sure we'll see the riders bunching up and fighting for that position more once we get into the top of this little kicker that we're on here.
It's got a quite nice snaky descent coming off it as well, as they go down towards the Chapelle du Buis, and that I'm just trying to see, we haven't got a golden zone the last time through, but we'll actually ride through the golden zone that we didn't see last time. No doubt we bring our podium presentation, we'll see a little bit more of that. Right, there's a bit of a bubbling coming up here, other riders coming up to the front. Now Arkea Samsic at the front laying it down too. The pressure's really on. I think we're going to see these 13 seconds come down quite quickly here. They're using this steep ramp. I suspect our two leading riders are now already down into the descent, or at least, there they are. The capture is just about to happen. That's the right-hand turn. Twisty, fast descent now, effectively taking them all the way down to river level by the bottom of it. The capture's happened, so this was just about to happen. This is the point at which we could start to see moves going.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see a move now. We might see maybe a move coming up, but on this little road it does kick up again, as I said, so not quite on the downhill yet. They've got another less than a kilometre, 400 metre, 500 metre little kicker, and then it is eyeballs out. But with how narrow that road is there, riders are going to be moving up, accelerating to make sure they're in a good position to stride and stay at the front on this next downhill that's coming up. Just because that effort you'll have to make on the final climb there, you're not in position, you're going to have to be moving up through rides for the next at least 2-3 minutes with this downhill, and how much it's going to string out the peloton.
Well, we've mentioned how well they've done together. Yeah, exactly. We mentioned how well they've done together, these two. They've both got quite relaxed riding styles as well. Morny van Niekerk and Rory Townsend. They've had time to chat. They've had a bit of bounce between them as well. And I think maybe more to do with their position on the bike and the way they ride. They've looked very much in control, even looking back to see where the gap is coming back, which it is. And this is going to be the catch. Morny van Niekerk just emptying his bottle for the last time. Fist bump between these two. Good ride by them. And they will, well, Rory Townsend, certainly, I think we've got him down as having both those jerseys, haven't we? The mountains and the sprints as well. The Irish champions had a good day out. So, group complete. What would you make that, Adam? 40 riders? Might be slightly less.
Yeah, 45 riders in that group, and it is going to, as we said, with how narrow this road is, all the way down to the finish now, pretty much. You've got this, another little bump, and then they really drop down fast before climbing up to the finish. You see Group R, their Cofidis have come off the front now, so there's only AG2R and Francis Dujour right towards the front. Arkea Samsic not too far off in front of that peloton, but for Guillaume Martin now, it's all about fighting to stay at the front. I'd have put, if I was Cofidis, try and put all your riders on the front, get Guillaume right up there, so if he does lose a few positions, it's going to be less than what it would be if he was further back. You can see that left-hand turn coming down before they just start to pick it up once again. This next climb now for Guillaume Martin is going to be, it's only a small little kicker, but he needs to make that effort to get right towards the front. On the downhill, for sure that he will lose more positions. As I said, when you don't want to be doing that when you've got a very steep climb coming up to the finish at the bottom.
Yes, I'm remembering, of course, we didn't have pictures of this a lap ago, but I'm remembering from last year this descent now is pretty spectacular, actually. Narrow, as you said, Adam, it really is single file all the way down here, but fast and twisty as well. Lovely descent. Wouldn't like to do it in the wet, that's for sure, because these are pretty rural roads and they're rough in places too.
They are brilliant roads to race on if you're a confident descender who can save energy, but just the way AG2R riders is pushing on the front, stringing things out towards the back. You see little gaps opening up. This next little kick here, they're going under the motorway bridge. This is the next little climb they've got, but look at the gap. The rider, a group of 45 riders, and look how far that last rider is behind. That's an effort you don't want to be having to make.
No.
Look at the front riders, all just nicely tucked in. The riders at the back still accelerating, still sprinting to just get on the wheel.
The next bit of road where they have real kind of moving up ability is actually alongside the river. Once they've taken that really tight right-hander back, is a full bent hairpin right back on themselves to join the road alongside the river. The road actually widens down there a little bit. And again, I remember that from last year, a bit of an opportunity for regrouping just before they start the climb, climbing away from the River Doubs. Adam, can I tempt you to pick a winner?
Nope.
Come on now. I'm going to go for it. I'll go for it. I'm going to say... Whoa, actually, I'm looking at the group right now. Do you know what? I keep mentioning him. I'm going to say Lenny Martinez, just because he's still well placed. He's sitting just behind Thibaut Pinot now. I think the 19-year-old Frenchman is going to take this. I think he's going to take off. Let's see. There's Jesus Herrada, last year's winner, on the outside. You sure? I know you're thinking, oh, I could pick someone, actually. I might just... Oh, dear, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. That's Morning Nico.
Yeah, luckily for him, he's done his job for today, and there's not too much stress for him. You can hear just in the background Thibaut Pinot fans shouting. But yeah, I'll just go for Pinot then. This is the next little bump before they drop down.
Oops, rough. It's almost gravel as we get through these rural roads. This is going back uphill again now. We've taken in that little descent and drop down. Very late for one of the Groupama FDG riders there to be necking a gel at this point, maybe thinking ahead to tomorrow as well. Jesus Herrada with the 24 on his back there, the Cofidis rider, right in the middle of our shot. Just in front of him, Ruben Thompson, the Kiwi for Groupama FDG, a growing number of Antipodean riders in there, and on his wheel, Ben O'Connor. 6th last year and winner the next day at the Tour du Jura, which is tomorrow's race, of course. We'll be looking to defend that one tomorrow. Right at the back there, Dawit Yamani, the Eritrean rider for Bike Aid. Good climber, good strong all-rounder as well, the Eritrean 25-year-old, and he's right on the back of this group. I think he might be the only Bike Aid rider left. I didn't see any other riders in there in that colour, which I have to say is almost exactly the same as the Kern Farmer colour. And that is, I think, Jesus Herrada and Victor Lafay locked together again, as they were first and second last year. Yes, it is, 24 and 25, Herrada and Lafay. Both, by the way, on the initial start list for Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday. First and second in this race last year. What was I saying, Adam, about this race being a good pointer to Flèche?
Where were they in Flèche last year?
Good question, I can't remember. We'll have to look it up, won't we? Let's see where they are on Wednesday. That's all that matters. The past is merely history. Here we are in the here and now. Let's see if they can do it again and get the 1-2 for Cofidis. I guess, in a way, it's indicative of how physical a sort-out this final ascent of Montfaucon is. Not so much about tactics, a little bit more about pacing and raw brute force over those 17% sections. There's two places where it's 17%. The other one, I think, goes to about 15 just before the top. Flattens ever so slightly.
16th last year.
There you go, but that's not bad.
Victor Lafay, 22nd.
Yeah, so he would have been in that big leading group that Dylan Teunswit won at the front of. It was a big group, though, as it so often is when they hit the bottom of the Mur de Huy. Don't forget, you can catch that one on Wednesday with Matt Stevens and my good self.
This is the last part now, just about to drop down. It's a fairly quick descent, not many turns in there, so for the riders it'll string out quite nicely. But still on these quite narrow roads here, if you're front, you definitely get a benefit, but all the way down to the finish. One very tight hairpin, as you mentioned, Jez, before they turn along to the River Doubs. Got about 2k along there, which is ever so slightly downhill, and then a very sharp ramp and a right turn, which starts them on the climb, and it is straight into hard terrain very, very quickly.
So welcome to the final 10 kilometres of this, the third edition of the classic Grand Besançon Doubs, this UCI 1.1 race, right in the east of France, in the northern foothills of the French Alps, in the Franche-Comté region of eastern France. And we have the four big French World Tour teams looking to lock horns. In fact, they're locking horns right now. AG Desert, Citroën Team, Groupama FDG, Cofidis and Team Arkea Samsic. We suspect they're the 4 big teams that are going to try and take this on. But there are some other teams and individuals in there who are mixing it up amongst them, of course. Lotto Destiny, having dropped down to the pro team status, have Sylvain Moniquet, who's been 8th in this race last year. Adam mentioned him earlier. He might be an interesting one to watch. As I would have said, would have been the Argentinian Eduardo Sepulveda, who's such a good climber on his day. He hasn't quite got it together yet this year for Lotto Destiny, having been another of those riders to have moved on from Drone Hopper last year. He's a very good climber. This climb probably, though, isn't quite long enough for Sepulveda. But Lotto Destiny have some riders there, definitely. Haven't yet picked out who's there yet. Thibaut Pinot sits 3rd wheel, just sitting up every now and again to have a look across the shoulders of the riders in front of him. Lenny Martinez, my pick for the day, just on the wheel of Thibaut Pinot. And more of the Lotto Destiny riders moving up, Adam, as well. So I'm presuming Moniquet is in there. Maybe actually used to ride for that team. Maybe you could pick out, see who else might be there. There's that descent.
2 of the riders just trying to move up on the right-hand side. But I've got to say, Francis Dejeux, Groupama, that's not the way you say it, by the way, Groupama FDJ, but I'm saying Francis Dejeux. They're doing a brilliant job at the minute. They've got 5 riders at this point in the race, all towards the front, and they've got AG2R, 1 rider sat right in front of them doing the work. So I'm sure when they get onto this bottom road, you can just see it in front of us there, the one that they eventually do turn on. They'll have the perfect lead out going into this climb now. You can see all 5 riders towards the front. They've been saving their energy. And the Leopard rider's moving up. He needs to sit on the wheels. Just rest, mate. Just rest. Take it easy. You don't need to be doing this work. Let someone else do it for you. This is, again, perfect for Francis Dejeux. They've got another rider doing those hard yards for them. You're going to go straight past? Yes, he is indeed.
Miguel Heidemann, the German, on the German... sorry, not German team. The Danish team now. Leopard Pro Cycling. And once again, it's Groupama FDG who take over. This is, I think, Adam, a race into that nasty right-hander I was talking about. We didn't see it last lap because we didn't have the pictures, but I do remember last year thinking, wow, that's a dangerous right. It is, I think, at speed. It is a dead turn. And it's sloping away from them, if I remember correctly, and downhill.
It is, yeah. You've got, well, it obviously is, yeah. Maxime Bouet on the front from Arkea. He has one job. Get you into this corner, get you in first, so when you get out this corner, you're right at the front, you can slot back in onto the wheels nicely. So a lot of the riders, there's the turn just in front, super tight, super narrow.
Yeah, and it's rough on the outside as well. Hold your breath, everyone. Maxime Bouet, as Adam says, leading into it. The squeal of disc brakes down to pretty much 0.
Ben O'Connor with a foot down there as well. You can just see how easily it is to lose position. There's Guillaume Martin just going around the outside of him, and just look at FDJ once again, still in the right place. Thibaut Pinot right towards the front, discarding the bottle. No more drinks left on his bike now, so he's got that less weight. A little nod of the head there. Get on my wheel, Thibaut. Come on, let's go. We need to stay in a good position, and it will be a lot easier for him now also to stay in that position because the road is a lot narrower than the one they were on. Groupama bossing it at the minute.
It's not quite the cycle path, which is the path you can see down beneath them, but it is narrow enough alongside the River Doubs. Oh, there's the front on shot. Wow. Oh, well, yeah, Bouet was up there. In fact, a number of them were up onto the footpath there, weren't they?
Yep.
So there we go. That group has just flattened out a little bit at this stage. They know it's going to be all about the final climb now. The Montfaucon, the ascent of the Côte de la Mallette, which takes them up to it. We have a look again.
You see Ben O'Connor just being the inside on the white there, foot down, just going around that corner, a little touch of wheels. There's Guillaume Martin just behind him, so he went from top 20 to, well, last 10 coming into that turn there, so that's extra effort that he won't want to make. We spoke about maybe, there he is on the left-hand side, so he has managed to move up, but he needs to be at the front. I'm pretty sure that he'd like things quite hard early on the bottom of this climb. Both teams, AG2R Citroën and Francis Dejeux, with great numbers towards the front.
Absolutely. Increasingly, Adam, I'm not just saying this because he's my pick. I think this is about Lenny Martinez because he is consistently the last rider in that string. There he is, right at the back. Every time they reshuffle, he's always the last one. Now, I might be reading too much into that, but he seems to be there. Ben O'Connor is sitting last of his line of what is now, I think, 3 riders left at the front for him for AG Desert Citroën team. He's moved back up fairly quickly after that foot-out moment. We've got one of the Burgos Bianchi riders there. I'm just trying to see who it is. It's definitely not Angel Madrazo. He's too tall in the purple there in the middle. This might all become, you know, me trying to pick out individuals in a big group this size, or probably within about a couple of kilometres' time, will be irrelevant, because they are just about to turn onto the climb now. You can see the whacking great hill up to there. Right, that's from the point at which they're going to climb up to just under 600 metres above sea level. And this is the start of the Côte de la Malette, which leads to the Mont Faucon and the final of this, the 3rd edition of the Grand Besançon Du. Let's go. This is where it's going to happen.
Yep, straight onto the climb now. Francis Jujot at the front, setting the tempo. Thibaut Pinot just sat right behind him. You've got Nans Peters there just in front of number 13, his teammate Clement Beret.
Enzo Palini leading on the front for Groupama FDG. They will start to drop numbers. Elie Gisbert just moving up. Yeah, just moving up the outside there, Adam, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was looking good, trying to get himself in as good a position as possible. There he is on the right-hand side.
That, it looks like Roger Adria moving up on the left. I mentioned he's a man in form for Kern Pharma, and he's moved up looking quite comfortable, actually, the man in the grassy green of Kern Pharma. And there's riders dropping off the back, as we'd expect at this stage. This is going to be a filtering down of this leading group, but there's some real climbing and fast finishing quality in there.
Guillaume Martin just there, taking his hands off the bar, so he's obviously still quite comfortable, putting something in his pocket. I don't know what that would be, but I'd be trying to get rid of it if I was him.
Yeah, maybe
Ben
nervous.
O'Connor just in front of him as well. Elie Gisbert just in front of Ben O'Connor there. Thibaut Pinot just sat behind the 2 AG2R riders now. A little tap on the bum there.
Yeah. And that is again Lenny Martinez, who's being just threaded through there. I think it was him that was tapping on the shoulder. This is Paul Orselin, who's been in good form at the start of this season. He's losing wheels towards the back as well. There are a few Euskaltel riders in there as well. Unai Iribar is the one I can pick out that I've seen.
Yeah, Lenny Martinez there, number 3, the young rider, only 19 years old, tapping Ruben Thompson, who is on the front now, just to set that tempo, make things a little bit harder. Jesus Harada there on the left-hand side as well. Still a relatively big group. No attack so far either.
Yeah, this is the classified part of the climb now. Martinez goes, and he looks like he's taking Gisbert with him as well, by the looks of it. Elie Gisbert. Here we go. This is when we get an opportunity to see this exciting young rider doing what apparently he does exceptionally well, the teenager, going uphill very, very fast. It's just a little dig there, though, and I think it's distance Ben O'Connor. Is that Ben O'Connor in 3rd, or is that... Just trying to work out who
Ben O'Connor's just behind there. He's just gradually finding his way back on a counter-attack from AG2R.
This is Baudin. I think this is Alex Baudin, who's done an awful lot of work already today. He was looking really good coming into the foot of the climb. He's done loads of work today, Baudin. I'm certain this is him at the front, and he goes again. I'm not sure this is part of the team plan, but I think he's got good legs today, Adam.
Well, he must have if he's right at the front there. I mean, that gap has grown substantially now back to that group. Those riders behind there. Elie Gisbert, Victor Lefay there as well. Sorry, Gisbert there.
And Gisbert, as I said, has got form in this race.
Whoop.
The RKS Samsung rider. I didn't know whether he was... And that is Roger Adria of Kern Pharma.
On the attack.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just quite a big dig by Victor Lafay there, just when it was looking like the next group might come back into these first of these quite tight, steep turns as well. This is where it really starts to steepen at this point. This is Lafay from Lenny Martinez, Roger Adria, and Alex Baudin has been dropped, so an opportunity maybe for Ben O'Connor to see if he can wind his way back in. The next group behind them contains last year's winner. Of course, Jesus Harada of Cofidis, but he can't chase down his teammate.
Alex Baudin did that move then, just making it hard for... He must have been feeling very, very good, but obviously the riders behind him, he just needed to check over his shoulder. Just one little acceleration there from Lefay, just puts him into this place here now, just off the back a little bit. If he's feeling that good and confident in his sprint, maybe just wait, just bide your time a little bit. Thibaut Pinot's there with Guillaume Martin just in the background, but Lafay doesn't want these riders coming back to him at all.
Lafay,
Martin now attacking, chasing his teammate.
I did say the Cofidis team looks so good on paper for today as well. Lafay, let's not forget, was second last year to Jesus Herrada, so it wasn't Herrada who was coming up. You were right, it was Guillaume Martin, and you said that Martin would need to take Adam this climb hard from the bottom.
Yeah, and he's got Thibaut Pinot just behind him as well, so Pinot just finding his way back on.
Herrada working really hard as well to get back in contention. That's Elie Gesbert tagged onto the back of this group. Lenny Martinez starts to dig again, sensing maybe that they're coming back. The young Frenchman, the teenager, looking back over his shoulder around that bend. Roger Adria is hanging on though. Lafay, Adria and Martinez. With a little gap over a group of some 7, 8 riders there who are chasing now. Might be less than that, sorry. 6 riders. Here they are. Thibaut Pinot right in the middle, riding what we suspect will be his last classic Grand Besançon Double, unless he wins that French national title at the end of June. Let's see.
Yeah, Clement Berthet there as well. He has to do this work. Obviously, Guillaume Martin and Thibaut Pinot have got teammates up the road, so they won't necessarily just drag that bunch along. They'll have to jump across to it, try and get rid of the other riders. And as they say that, Guillaume Martin shoots off with Thibaut Pinot in chase. This is what they exactly have to do, jump across to it, 2 kilometres to go.
Lenny Martinez going again. The 19-year-old Groupama FDG rider, super talented young Frenchman, is going again, and he's watching a man who's already achieved so much in the sport behind him, getting a little bit distance here as well. Thibaut Pinot trying to close up that gap to Guillaume Martin. Lafay not coming through either. Martinez is flicking the elbow. Lafay knows he's got firepower behind, but Martinez might have to do this alone by the looks of it. 2K to go, Adam.
Yeah, I think Lafay there is quite confident in his ability there. He's got his teammate coming across to him, Guillaume Martin, and then you've got Thibaut Pinot who's just been joined again by the others. But I think Lafay will be quite comfortably still pushing on the front. He can afford to back off with Guillaume Martin coming across to him maybe, unless he can distance Lenny Martinez. But Martinez, that's the last thing he wants. 2 Cofidis riders with him rather than just one. But both looking good so far. 1.8k to go, halfway up the climb pretty much. The steeper section still to come as well. Just before the top, they have the gradient eases off with about 350 metres to go. But it is very steep through the town there just before that. We saw that on the last lap.
Yeah, I think that's the 1k to go marker there, if I'm not mistaken.
1.5k to go.
1.5, sorry, yeah.
This is the flat part before they turn into the town, and it starts to really ramp up again.
Yeah, when you say flat, I think that's being generous. Flatter.
It's downhill.
It gets well, it is downhill here, yeah. It gets steeper again, doesn't it? This little downhill only adds to how steep the next section is. And Clement Berthet has done a lot today with the number 13 on his back, and he's just hanging on. Martinez goes again. He's waiting for the moment to go and just sends a little bit of an easing there from Lafay, and Lafay's going to have to close this one. He's got a lot of snap, Lenny Martinez. And Victor Lafay looking like he has got the strength to close up to the teenager, though. Not quite closed down just yet, though.
Yeah, he's not rushing, he's just riding his own tempo. There's a very quick acceleration there from Lenny Martinez, and you can see what he's doing. Accelerating hard, backing right off. There's the 1 kilometre to go time. So they've got around 750 metres of very hard terrain coming up in terms of gradient, and it just eases off before the top.
Yeah, Victor Lafay, I think, Adam, you can see how strong Lenny Martinez is. He knows he's got firepower coming up behind too. Here comes Roger Adria and Guillaume Martin. Guillaume Martin looking over his shoulder. So Cofidis once again, as it did 1 year ago, with 2 riders in play. Victor Lafay was second to Jesus Herrada last year. Guillaume Martin hasn't quite got quite as fast a finish, I think, as Victor Lafay, but Lenny Martinez is not going to wait to find out. He's gone again. In amongst it all, Roger Adria is doing a great ride for Kern Farmer, but he's not the kind of punchy rider who's possibly going to get advantage of these around him. He needs to maybe go a little bit earlier. He's ridden it very steadily this climb as well, just consistently rolling with things as they happen around him. I think Lenny Martinez is getting frustrated. He's frustrated for a good reason. He cannot get rid of Victor Lafay, and Victor Lafay is strong as well. He's just pressing on a little bit himself for the first time.
Yeah, he does, but I think Guillaume Martin as well, he needs to realise the position he's in here. Just use his ability, use that one maybe acceleration that he's got and just try and hang on to the finish. Take speed at Lenny Martinez and Victor Lafay's teammate and try and use that, because I think at the minute it just looks like Martinez has got that excellent jump on him. He goes once again.
He's desperate to get the first win of his professional career. He's had some good wins as an under-23. Taking 2 stages in the Ronde des Arts. Anyone who does that is going to be marked out as a young professional to watch. But once again, the two of them lock horns and look at each other. They just can't get rid of each other, and they keep coming back together. All the while, Roger Adria is just riding this diesel tempo climb here to try and come back to them. Stuck between them and the others is this man, Thibaut Pinot.
Yeah, 500 metres to go now. Thibaut Pinot, that distance is a lot there. Victor Lafay pushing on once again. Guillaume Martin just sitting on Cofidis and Lenny Martinez. Is that him going again there? I'm surprised that Cofidis haven't tried to implement more of an attacking race than this. And there we go, straight over the top now. 250 metres to go.
Roger Adria is going to lead out. This is the first time we've seen him break cover like this. He's ridden very steadily up here the whole way. Roger Adria is leading out. Victor Lafay looks so calm. Lenny Martinez is now struggling. Martinez looks like he's maybe done one too many digs, and Victor Lafay looks ice cold, the Cofidis man. He's ready with 75 metres to go. Victor Lafay opens up. Lenny Martinez in the middle, and Roger Adria's got nothing left. Victor Lafay has looked so good all the way up here, and he's going to take the 3rd edition of the classic Grand Besançon Double. And once again, Cofidis come up trumps on this one. Guillaume Martin knows it as well, celebrating across the line. And Thibaut Pinot, I think, is going to equal his 5th place there, because I think he's rolled across the line in 5th too. Great ride by Clément Berthet for AG Desert Citroën. And last year's winner comes across the line in the top 10 there, Jesus Herrada. That is a tough final climb up to the top of Montfaucon, hasn't it, Adam? It's a great ride by this teenager as well. He tried and tried and tried again, just didn't have enough, and he's right cheesed off with himself by the looks of it too.
I would be if I was him as well. I mean, coming into that corner there, 125 metres to go, and he puts himself in 3rd position. He wanted to be into there 1st, 2nd, but definitely not 3rd out of a group of 3 of them. I know you have to anticipate riders coming, but the amount of speed that he had from his accelerations, you thought that he'd have wanted to come into there 1st and just try and hang on. He was right on the wheel of Lafay, but just, it was almost a drag race in terms of Lafay and him. They didn't distance each other at all in that last 125 metres. It was all about that last corner and who got it into it first, and Lafay got into it, well, 2nd, but ultimately in front of Martinez.
He did look good all the way up, but despite how stinging Lenny Martinez's attacks looked, Victor Lafay looked equal to them. On his day, when he's in good form and he's up for it on a climb like this, Victor Lafay is, as he's shown, he's got Giro stage wins to his name. As he's shown in that kind of terrain, when he's up for it and on his best form, he is quite the operator. I think at this point, watching him here, Adam, he looked, well, he just looked like he was going to win, that's it. He looked so good in that group of 3, didn't he?
He did. I mean, it was a long climb, on a lot of action happening in such a short amount of time, but Lafay just, he took his time up there in terms of being patient. He did a couple of little digs, but then let Martinez just do the blow after blow after blow. He knew that he had to be into that corner in 1st or 2nd position to be able to accelerate out of it, and Lafay just a little bit of a wise ahead of him, I think.
Yeah. He did have a go, though, at getting rid of Lenny Martinez, and I thought that wasn't going to happen. But they weren't all-out, full-on attacks like Martinez were, and he was really kicking hard. I'm presuming if you kick that hard that many times, eventually it's going to take that little bit out of you. But it's interesting what you say about positioning as well, Adam. Around that sweeping right-hander, it just looked like he'd left himself a bit too much to do. We could see the finish line, couldn't we? If they looked to their left before that sweeping left-hander, before this long right-hander to the finish line, you could see the finish line right there. But it was kicking off at that point, and actually assessing exactly how much you have left, I guess, is probably quite a hard thing to do on a finish like that.
Yeah, at that point, it's not about what you have left. It's just going all out to the line. You can't think about how much you've got to save. It's just full gas to the finish. You've got to go. Yeah, as soon as you get into that corner, or as soon as the sprint starts, you need to start sprinting. It's not about what you've got left or trying to judge the finish. You just need to go for it. And I think knowing the course a little bit into this left-hander. Is this left-hander? You knew you had to be in there first or second out of a group of three, and Martinez just, you can see, as soon as it comes out that corner, there's nothing he could have done about it. Lefebvre with a great acceleration, Martinez just matching him, sitting down, knowing he's not going to be able to pass him, angry with himself after the efforts he made, which, understandable.
Yeah. I suspect he's going to have many more chances in his very young career, Lenny Martinez. Certainly from what I hear, he is extraordinarily well spoken of, and I think we can see why today.
We got a little message on the ground there. Lenny Martinez, this is what he said: that sucks to be second. I came to win. I would like to drop him. It was a short climb and hard to drop him. So yeah, understandably,
yeah,
annoyed.
Remarkably, Adam, that is only the third pro win of Victor Lafay's career as well. Of course, he won a stage of the Arctic Race of Norway last year, that beautiful race that stayed just south of the Arctic Circle last year. But of course, he won that Giro stage win in 2021 that marked him out as a great name to watch in this kind of terrain. And that is his third pro win, or at least above, 0.1 and above, if that's what we count as pro wins. I always like to think that a 0.2 UCI win would, in company of other pro riders, probably should be counted. I don't know what you think about that. I think we might have had this debate before.
Pro win is a pro win.
Yes, yes.
Doesn't matter where it is or what it is. A win's a win.
Damn right. And another good one today. Let's see. I tell you what. Let's revisit this, shall we, Adam? Let's see how he does at Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday. He's riding tomorrow, by the way. He's riding the Tour de Jura tomorrow, but like a number of riders, he's not doing the Tour de Doubs on Sunday. He is instead then recovering in time for the Flèche Wallonne on Wednesday. So let's see how he does there. Let's see if this is the kind of indicator of potential Flèche form that I touted it might be. Let's see. He certainly looked good. Oh no, we're not going to see the end game of this early episode of lizard versus small beetle thing, are we? No. We're going to leave that one hanging. It's like wonderful drama. Those of you who are with us early won't want to see these lovely shots of the lush green hills above Besançon. But maybe if you weren't, this would be rather nice to look at. But we had a fair amount of looking at these while we lost pictures. So once again, for those of you who stayed with us and didn't go over to the Giro Sicilia, thank you for staying with us. Those of you who went over to watch the Tour of Sicily and then came back to us, thank you for coming back to us. There is so much on this weekend, of course. Today being Friday, we are, let me remind you, rolling into Amstel Gold territory this weekend as we make our way into the Ardennes phase, although of course it's a Dutch race, but rolling our way into what we call the Ardennes Classics. Amstel this weekend, Flèche Wallonne midweek, and Liège-Bastogne-Liège next weekend, the next of our big monuments. And in between that, Rob Hatch and Adam Blythe bringing our viewers the Tour of the Alps. There is the top 12, not the top 10, but the top 12. Victor Lafay, Lenny Martinez, Roger Adria with that great ride for Kern Pharma, looking good throughout. Guillaume Martin, Thibaut Pinot, Clément Berthet, Jesus Herrada, last year's winner, Ewan Kostu, Yetzebol, Elie Gesbert, Ben O'Connor and Unai Iribar. Will Ben O'Connor repeat his win in the Tour du Jura tomorrow, which was what he did? I think he was, where was he in this race last year? 6th in this race, and then the winner the next day. And today he's finished a bit further down. Can he get the win again tomorrow? In a finishing climb which is longer than that as well at the finish of the Tour du Jura tomorrow. Much changed route tomorrow, though. Finishing on the Mont Poupée. Much harder climb. It climbs to a higher height as well. I've forgotten now the final height of tomorrow's Mont Poupée, but it's a good 200 or 300 metres higher than the top of the Mont Faucon where we are today. Might well suit Ben O'Connor a little bit more. If I remember correctly, last year's finish was also quite a bit longer than the Mont Faucon, but the Tour du Jura seems to change its course much more regularly. It is quite a bit of an older race than this race as well. It's been going a fair while longer. And I'll remind you, it's a chance to have a look at Poligny tomorrow, the start town, which is going to be the finish town of stage 19 of this year's Tour de France. I wonder who'll be in yellow by that stage, with just 2 stages to go after that point. In a Tour de France which is very central France focused this year. Great opportunity to catch the race across multiple stages, spreading eastward from the centre of France, the Massif Central.
Borné Van Niekerk donc qui nous rejoint.
Calling Borné Van Niekerk back up.
Borné Van Niekerk qui remporte la combativité, la Golden Zone, le prix parrainé par SBI.
So he also won. There you go. This is something that happened when we weren't seeing pictures. He won the Golden Zone. He was with Rory Townsend at that stage, of course, as they went towards back towards the river, back towards Besançon for the first time on our finishing loop. And so he was the fastest rider through the Golden Zone, and he wins a sort of slightly browny golden jersey for it as well. My suspicion is it could have been either one of them. It probably would have been the one who rolled through the end of the Golden Zone first wheel. So we didn't see it, so I can't say that for sure. I am always keen on innovation, new ideas in races, and Golden Zones are something we're increasingly seeing popping up every now and again. I wouldn't have minded seeing it today, but I have to check to see whether we have a Golden Zone tomorrow. Yes, we do. We have a Golden Zone tomorrow at the Côte de Mesnay. Côte de Mesnay, I should say. And it comes quite late on, 25k to go.
Recevoir les nombreuses récompenses là aussi qui vont avec ce prix des sprints intermédiaires parrainé par les assurances Groupama, partenaire de l'épreuve. Et Rory Townsend qui nous rejoint, maillot de champion d'Irlande, le trèfle sur le podium. Je crois qu'on peut l'applaudir bien fort. Rory Townsend, l'un des deux derniers rescapés de l'échappée.
Rory Townsend
qui vient rafler aujourd'hui le prix
up on the podium for the first of his two classifications.
Qui l'encadre bien sûr avec les différentes récompenses.
The Irish champion, who, as I was mentioning in our coverage with Adam earlier, has possibly unknowingly made a really good move over the winter. Unfortunately, the team he was with, the British UCI Continental team, disbanded not long after the start of this season. And he found himself, along with a couple of old teammates, at the Bolton Equities Black Spoke team, and has started the season really well.
Également le Crédit Mutuel, si Pascal David, président du district, donc pour le Crédit Mutuel, peut nous rejoindre, puisqu'on va remettre maintenant le maillot de la montagne qui a forcément de la valeur vu le parcours aujourd'hui. Et du côté du stand des MSA, on avait d'ailleurs ce maillot à gagner, Crédit Mutuel et MSA qui étaient présents avec nous au cœur de Montfaucon pour la fin de zone et avec le village partenaire. Et on va accueillir à nouveau Rory Townsend, le champion d'Irlande, qui nous rejoint à nouveau, maillot à poids de meilleur grimpeur, parrainé par
And Rory Townsend is going to come back on stage for his best climbers jersey, the maillot à pois.
Je crois qu'on peut l'applaudir encore plus fort.
There it is, the polka dot jersey for the best climber in the race too. Good day out. Full day in the breakaway. Two jerseys.
Et saluer encore une fois donc les partenaires, la MSA et le Crédit Mutuel, pour remettre les différentes récompenses. Les récompenses qui continuent avec bien sûr le
By the looks of it, Bolton Equities Black Spoke are not on the start list for tomorrow's Tour du Jura. That might change, but not on the early start list I've seen either. It must be one of the few teams that aren't doing both days back to back. It makes so much sense, of course.
Alors, on est en train de voir si Lenny est prêt pour le podium, lui qui est meilleur jeune de l'épreuve, également deuxième de cette compétition. Alors que Victor Lafay est en train de livrer ses quelques impressions, bien sûr, tantôt à la presse, tantôt aux passionnés qu'il a retrouvés sur le bord de la route.
Next classification should be for the best young rider, the meilleur jeune, the best rider under the age of 23, and that has to be Lenny Martinez. Our winner Victor Lafay, 27 years of age, and Martinez just 19.
Et effectivement, le meilleur jeune qui va nous rejoindre, je vais en profiter pour accueillir notre partenaire Evol Énergie. Si Hippolyte Tuison, son directeur, est avec nous pour remettre le maillot blanc de meilleur jeune. Et quand on parle de jeunesse, c'est un garçon qui a 19 ans seulement, déjà 6e d'étape sur les routes de Catalogne, en World Tour, 2e aujourd'hui, meilleur jeune de l'épreuve, mesdames, messieurs, Lenny Martinez nous rejoint.
Lenny Martinez, second on the day in the classic Grand Besançon du, and the best young rider, of course.
Le prix du meilleur jeune qui récompense le meilleur des moins de 23 ans et Evol Énergie, partenaire de ce prix.
He tried and he tried again, but from what we've heard from Victor Lafay in his interview with the French television after the finish, he was expecting that and was wise to it every time. Martinez, though, very frustrated, banging the bars as he crossed the line, knowing that he had a golden opportunity there of getting his first pro win.
Effectivement, Lenny aujourd'hui, meilleur jeune, il va falloir quand même le savourer, ce prix de la jeunesse.
Let's see how he goes tomorrow and on Sunday at the Tour de Doubs as well.
Mais quelle finale, quelle deuxième place, quel prix de la jeunesse, effectivement, c'est toujours un podium. C'est sûr qu'on t'a senti.
What a finish, what a finale.
Quel panache, Lenny.
C'est vrai que c'est bien deuxième, mais c'est aussi un peu chiant de passer si proche de la victoire aussi. Donc je venais là vraiment pour gagner, mais bon, voilà, l'année prochaine.
No, so it would have been a great chance to get that win today, but oh well, next year maybe.
Quelque chose parce que depuis des semaines, nous on parle de Thibaut Pinot. Thibaut. Mais quand
this week, everyone's been talking about Thibaut Pinot and it being all about Thibaut Pinot.
On peut essayer encore une fois. Qu'est-ce qui se passe quand Lenny Martinez il attaque? Et bien, ça a donné exactement ça.
So, as soon as they saw Lenny Martinez attacking, big cheer at the finish.
Demain, après-demain, il y a encore des opportunités. Lenny, tu seras avec nous?
Ouais, il y a encore 2 occasions de gagner, là, donc on va...
Yeah, another chance to win tomorrow.
Pars pas trop loin, il y a le podium complet avec tes deux compatriotes. Bravo à Lenny Martinez, meilleur jeune de l'épreuve.
Tune in with Adam and I tomorrow for the Tour du Jura to see whether Lenny Martinez can make good of the Mont Poupée, the finish tomorrow. A longer climb, just as hard actually. It will be really interesting to see whether he rides a bit more cautiously maybe.
Le podium du jour, on va inviter dans un instant les représentants donc, du Grand Besançon Métropole avec Anne Vigneault, avec le trophée des supporters qui sera remis au vainqueur. Mais pour l'heure, on va remettre le prix de la 3e place à un jeune garçon qui aura su accrocher le bon wagon dans le final pour la formation Kern Pharma. C'est Roger Adria qui va nous rejoindre, 3e de l'épreuve. Magnifique podium aujourd'hui pour un garçon qui déjà rentré dans le top 10 de la Mont Ventoux dénivelé challenge la saison dernière. 3e de l'épreuve, je crois que lui aussi mérite un tonnerre d'applaudissements. 3e de cette édition 2023.
So this is going to be our final podium by the looks of it. Roger Adria gave it a right go at the finish, led in around the final bend in the lead, but it was something kind of inevitable about the way Victor Lafay came off his wheel. And I have to say, Roger Adria kind of looked like he knew it as well as it happened.
Avec les coureurs français que nous allons accueillir, puisque je vous propose d'accueillir le 2e de l'épreuve. On vient de le
Another good ride though by the 24-year-old Spaniard for Equipo Kern Pharma, man in form as well. I did mention at the beginning of the day, I thought that the Grand Prix Miguel Indurain would be a good indicator towards form in this race, and it turns out it was. He was 5th in that last week. And Lenny Martinez, who we've already seen, 2nd on the podium, 2nd on the day.
De Comté, alors lui qui était membre de la Continentale à Besançon, il connaît un petit peu les recettes du coin, et là il est servi. En tout cas, Lenny Martinez, 2e de l'épreuve. Est-ce que Bastien Schmid nous a rejoint pour remettre le trophée des supporters, le trophée Colruyt, qui va être remis? Effectivement, Bastien qui va avoir le loisir de récompenser le vainqueur aux côtés peut-être d'Anne Vigneault représentant le Grand Besançon Métropole. Si elle peut nous rejoindre à nouveau pour accueillir le vainqueur de l'épreuve. On a pu échanger quelques mots tout à l'heure. Eh bien le vainqueur, cela fait un moment qu'il attend de pouvoir savourer l'applaudimètre sur le podium. Un garçon qui a brillé en Norvège, qui a brillé sur les routes du Tour d'Italie. 2e la saison dernière, vainqueur cette année pour la formation Cofidis, Victor Lafay.
3rd win of his pro career, and winner of a race, a stage of the Arctic Race of Norway, winner of a stage of the Giro d'Italia, and winner today of the classic Grand Besançon Double in its third edition.
Du Grand Besançon Métropole qui va remettre le maillot jaune de leader à Victoire Lafay en guise de souvenir de sa victoire aujourd'hui au Belvédère de Montfaucon avec le trophée des supporters, le trophée coloré qui est remis.